Welcome to this channel, where every story dives deep into real emotions, tough choices, and the raw moments that define family, love, and heartbreak. From emotional breakups to shocking family drama to the hardest asshole stories you've ever heard. These tales will keep you hooked till the very last word. Get ready, because the next story might just hit closer to home than you expect. The fight started over something as small as a chair. That's how ridiculous it seems now. But in my family, nothing is ever just about what it looks like on the surface. Every argument is layered with years of resentment, unspoken tension, and emotional baggage that we all pretend doesn't exist until it explodes. It was Thanksgiving. My mom had set the table for 12 because we had extended family coming, including my sister Emily and her fiancé, Ryan. They got engaged 6 months ago, and ever since, Emily had been walking around like she owned the air we all breathed. The problem came when she insisted on sitting at the head of the table. Normally, that was Dad's spot. Every year, without question, he sat at the head, Mom sat at the other, and the rest of us filled in. But this year, Emily walked in, announced that since she was the bride-to-be, she should naturally sit at the head. Traditionally, the father of the family sits there, Dad said in his calm but firm tone. Emily scoffed. Traditionally, sure, but times change, Dad. Ryan and I are about to start our own family. Shouldn't we take the place of honor? Everyone went quiet. Forks hovered midair, eyes darted between them, waiting to see who would break first. I could see Mom's hand shaking as she reached for her glass. She hated conflict, but you could tell she also hated how Emily had been steamrolling every conversation for months. My older brother, Mark, rolled his eyes and muttered, "Here we go again." That's when I stepped in, and maybe I shouldn't have. "Emily, it's a chair. Just sit down and stop making it about you." Her head snapped toward me, her eyes narrowing like knives. "Excuse me. You heard me," I said, my voice sharper than I intended. "Every holiday turns into your spotlight show. Not everything has to revolve around your engagement." Ryan cleared his throat uncomfortably, but Emily was already on the attack. "You're just jealous because your life is boring. I'm sorry, I actually have something to celebrate." I laughed, but it wasn't funny. Celebrate? You're marrying a guy you've known for barely a year. That's not a celebration. That's a gamble. The words landed like a slap. Mom gasped. Dad pushed his chair back. Ryan's face flushed red, but he stayed quiet. Emily's eyes filled with tears, but instead of crying, she went for blood. "You know what? At least Ryan loves me. Unlike you, who can't even keep a relationship for more than 6 months. Maybe if you weren't so bitter and lonely, you'd understand what it's like to have someone actually want you." Her words hit deeper than I wanted to admit. My last breakup had been brutal, and she knew it. She used it as ammo anyway. The room went silent again. My chest tightened, and before I knew it, I said something that cracked everything wide open. "At least my ex didn't cheat on me with my best friend. Can you say the same?" Emily, her face went pale. The color drained instantly, and for the first time all night, she looked scared instead of smug. Mom dropped her glass, and it shattered across the tile floor. Dad stood up, his face dark with anger. Mark muttered, "Oh shit," because what I said wasn't a guess. It wasn't a jab. It was the truth. A truth that Emily had been hiding from the entire family. And I had just blown it open at the Thanksgiving table. The silence that followed my outburst was deafening. You could practically hear everyone's pulse racing in that dining room. Mom bent down quickly to start gathering the broken glass, probably just to avoid looking at anyone. Dad's fists clenched at his sides. Ryan's jaw locked like he was trying not to lose it in front of everyone. But Emily? She just sat there, frozen, her face pale and her mouth opening and closing like she couldn't figure out which lie to grab onto first. What are you even talking about?" She finally stammered, her voice shaky. "Don't do that," I said coldly. "Don't act like you don't know. I saw the messages. Emily, you were cheating on Ryan with Tyler, your own best friend." Mom's hands shook so hard, she almost cut herself on the shards of glass. Is this true?" she whispered. Emily pushed back her chair, standing abruptly, her eyes darting around the room as if looking for an escape. "This is insane. You're making this up because you're jealous of me." I stood up too. "Jealous? You think I'm jealous that you slept with your best friend while planning your wedding? Emily, you've been lying to everyone for months. Ryan deserves to know the truth. Ryan's face went red, his fists gripping the edge of the table so tightly I thought it might snap. Emily, he said, his voice dangerously calm. Is it true? Emily started to cry. Not soft, pitiful tears, ugly, frantic ones. It was a mistake. It didn't mean anything. I was drunk. I was confused. Ryan slammed his hands on the table, making the dishes rattle. Mistake? You were sleeping with him for 3 months. Don't you dare call that a mistake. Emily covered her face, sobbing, but nobody rushed to comfort her. Not even Mom, who always played peacekeeper. This time, she just stood there, her lips pressed in a tight line, her eyes watering but full of disappointment. Mark shook his head, letting out a bitter laugh. Of course, Emily's drama ruins another holiday. Shocker. Shut up. Emily screamed, her tears streaking her face with mascara. You don't know what it's like to be under this much pressure. Everyone expects me to be perfect. Pressure? I snapped. You wanted the spotlight. You demanded the attention. And when you got it, you still weren't satisfied. So you blew up your own life and tried to pretend like nobody would notice. Ryan stood up so fast his chair tipped over. We're done, he spat, glaring at her. There's no wedding. There's nothing. We're over. Emily grabbed his arm desperately. Ryan, please don't do this. I love you. It didn't mean anything. He yanked his arm free. You don't love anyone but yourself, Emily. You never have. He stormed out, slamming the door so hard the windows rattled. For a moment, nobody moved. Emily crumpled back in her chair, sobbing uncontrollably. Mom leaned against the counter, covering her mouth with her hand. Dad finally spoke, his voice low but furious. You've embarrassed this family, he said. You've humiliated us in front of Ryan, in front of everyone. And for what? Attention. Emily screamed again. I said I was sorry. What more do you want from me? Dad's voice cut like steel. I want you to grow up. You've destroyed something that could have been beautiful because you couldn't stand not being the center of attention. Emily looked at me then, her eyes full of hatred. This is your fault, she hissed. You couldn't just keep your mouth shut. You had to ruin everything. I shook my head, my chest heavy but firm in my conviction. No, Emily, you ruined everything. I just told the truth. Ryan deserved to know who he was marrying. And Mom and Dad deserved to know what kind of person you've become. Her sobs quieted, and she just stared at me with a venom I'd never seen before. It wasn't sadness anymore. It was pure rage. Later that night, after everyone had left, I sat in my old bedroom staring at the ceiling. My phone buzzed nonstop with texts, some from Art telling me I did the right thing, some from cousins asking if the rumors were true, and one long, scathing message from Emily blaming me for everything. But deep down, I didn't regret it. Not even a little. Maybe that makes me the asshole. Maybe I should have kept my mouth shut. Let Emily live her fantasy until it all came crashing down on its own. But I couldn't. Watching her sit there, smug and entitled, demanding the head of the table, while lying to everyone who loved her, it was too much. So I told the truth. And maybe I blew up Thanksgiving, but at least the lies are gone. And honestly, part of me thinks Emily needed to be exposed, even if it broke everything in the process. If you stuck with me through this whole story, you're the kind of person I make these for. A like and subscribe would mean the world. It keeps me motivated to bring you even more stories just like this. The night my brother got engaged, everything in my family shifted, though no one wanted to admit it. At first glance, it was just a celebration. Laughter, champagne, hugs, and photos for Instagram. But beneath the sparkle, there was tension so thick it nearly buzzed in the air. My brother, James, had always been the golden child. He was the firstborn, the straight-A student, the one my parents loved bragging about. He landed a steady job right out of college, bought a condo at 27, and now was marrying the perfect girl. Meanwhile, I was a younger sibling who made different choices, more creative, less stable, not living up to the family's endless measuring stick. So when James slipped that diamond ring on Anna's finger, I smiled and clapped like everyone else. But inside, a knot tightened in my stomach. It wasn't jealousy of Anna or even James's happiness. It was what Anna represented. She wasn't just becoming his fiancée. She was stepping right into the middle of our family dynamic, one that was already fragile. The thing about Anna is that she wasn't neutral. She was calculated, polished, and always seemed to have a way of bending situations in her favor. The moment she entered the room, conversations shifted toward her. My parents adored her, maybe even more than they adored James, and I could already see the way she subtly drove wedges. But I wasn't prepared for how quickly she'd use her influence to pit me against my own family. That night after the engagement party, while everyone was sipping champagne and nibbling cake, Anna pulled me aside. Her smile was sweet, her voice low enough that only I could hear. "You should be happy for us," she whispered. "But if I were you, I'd work on being less disruptive. James and I don't need extra drama when we start planning." Disruptive. That was the word she chose. I hadn't even said anything all evening besides congratulations, yet she was already laying down her boundary lines. It was like she wanted to warn me off before anything even began. I forced a polite smile, but her words stuck with me, because disruptive is exactly how my family saw me. When I argued back at family dinners, when I pointed out favoritism, when I admitted I didn't want to follow James's perfect path. And now Anna was going to use that same word against me. Only this time, she had my parents' ears. The following weeks were a blur of wedding planning. Every phone call from my mom was about venues, dresses, caterers. But the undertone was always the same. Anna said this. Anna prefers that. Anna thinks we should. My mom never once asked about my life. Not about the breakup I was crawling out of with my boyfriend of 3 years. Not about the promotion I had fought tooth and nail for. Nothing. It was all Anna, all James, all wedding. At first, I swallowed my feelings. Family comes first, right? I told myself I was being petty, overly sensitive. But then Anna started taking digs at me in front of everyone. During brunch one Sunday, while we were all seated around my parents' dining table, Anna commented casually, some people just don't thrive in traditional paths. It's not for everyone, and that's okay, as long as they don't drag others down with their negativity. Her eyes flicked toward me, and the silence that followed confirmed what she meant. My parents didn't defend me. James didn't speak up. I sat there, swallowing the burn in my throat, trying to keep my face neutral. It was like my family had decided. James and Anna were the stars, and I was the shadow everyone tolerated. The straw that broke everything didn't even happen at a big event. It was during a random Tuesday night dinner when I finally lost it. We were at my parents' house, sitting around the table. Anna was scrolling on her phone, showing my mom Pinterest boards for flower arrangements. My dad was joking about giving James advice on married life, and I was invisible. Then Anna said something that set me off. She laughed and said, "Well, at least James didn't end up with someone who can't hold down a stable relationship." Imagine that nightmare. The table erupted in laughter, except me, because that wasn't a joke. That was a knife twisted straight into me, a jab at the breakup I'd just gone through, the heartbreak I hadn't even healed from yet. I slammed my fork down. "You know what, Anna? You might be good at pretending you're sweet, but we all know you love being cruel. Congratulations, you got the ring, you got the spotlight, and apparently you've got my whole family under your spell. But don't sit here and act like you're better than me." The silence that followed was deafening. My mom's face paled, my dad looked uncomfortable, and James's jaw tightened. But Anna? She smiled, like she had been waiting for me to explode. And that's when it hit me. Maybe this was her plan all along. To get me to lash out, to prove I was disruptive, to show everyone I was the problem. Because immediately, James turned to me and said, "You're out of line. You always do this. You ruin everything." The heartbreak that washed over me in that moment wasn't just about my brother choosing Anna over me. It was about realizing I had already lost. My family had chosen their side, and it wasn't mine. I left dinner that night without another word, but the weight in my chest was unbearable. For the first time in my life, I wondered if maybe my role in this family wasn't to be part of it at all. The drive home from my parents' house that night felt endless. My hands were gripping the steering wheel so tight they cramped. and I couldn't shake the sound of James's voice echoing in my head. "You ruin everything." That wasn't just a throwaway comment. That was years of resentment, of buried comparisons, of every moment I'd ever been the one who didn't fit their version of perfect. And Anna had finally brought it all to the surface. By the time I got home, my phone was already buzzing with texts. First from my mom, "We need to talk about your behavior tonight. That wasn't appropriate." Then from James, "You owe Anna an apology." And finally from Anna herself, "I understand you're going through a tough time, but lashing out won't fix anything. Maybe some distance is best for now." It was like they had all sat down together and crafted a unified response. And the message was clear: I was the villain. For the next few days, I ignored every call. I buried myself in work, trying to outrun the hollow ache in my chest. But the silence from my family only made it worse. Normally, after a fight, someone would reach out to smooth things over. This time, nothing. It was as if they were fine cutting me off, as long as Anna got to keep her shiny, picture-perfect role. The breaking point came when my mom invited me to a family dinner. I almost didn't go, but something in me hoped maybe they wanted to fix things. Maybe James had cooled off. Maybe my parents realized how unfair this was. But when I walked in and saw Anna already seated at the table, smiling like she owned the house, I knew exactly what this dinner was about. We sat down, and almost immediately my dad cleared his throat. "We think it's time we address what happened." His voice was firm, like he was preparing for a business negotiation, not a conversation with his daughter. Anna's hand rested delicately on James's arm, and he nodded, as if to give her permission to speak. She leaned forward, her eyes on me. I know emotions were high the other night, and I don't hold grudges. But for the sake of this family, and for James and me as we build our future, I think it's important that boundaries are respected. Boundaries. Another neat little word to paint me as the problem. My mom chimed in, "Honey, Anna's right. We all want peace, but you can't lash out at her like that. She's going to be part of this family, and we need harmony." I stared at all of them, disbelief burning in my chest. So let me get this straight. She gets to make digs at me, mock me in front of everyone, and I'm the one who needs to apologize? James's jaw tightened. "She wasn't mocking you. You're just too sensitive. You always make everything about you." That sentence, "you always make everything about you," was like gasoline on the fire. Because wasn't that what they were doing? Making everything about Anna, about James, about the wedding, while I was sidelined, invisible, and belittled? I took a deep breath, trying to steady my voice. "You know what? If you're all so convinced I'm the problem, maybe I should just step out. Maybe I won't come to the wedding. That way Anna can have her perfect fairy tale without me ruining it." The room went silent. My mom gasped. "Don't be ridiculous," she said quickly, but her eyes flicked toward Anna, almost like she was checking for approval. And then Anna, with that same calm, infuriating smile, said, "If that's what you feel is best, I wouldn't want you to force yourself into a situation where you're uncomfortable. Weddings are about joy, after all." It was such a carefully crafted trap. If I backed down, I'd look like the dramatic one. If I followed through, I'd be painted as the selfish sibling who abandoned the family during an important moment. I stood up. Fine. Maybe that's exactly what I'll do. I walked out before anyone could stop me. For weeks, I cut contact. No calls, no texts, no family dinners. It was both freeing and excruciating. Freeing because I didn't have to sit through another round of Anna's digs. Excruciating because I kept wondering if maybe, just maybe, I really was the problem. Then came the final blow. One afternoon, scrolling through social media, I saw a post from James. A picture of him and Anna, smiling with my parents at a wedding food tasting. The caption read, "Family is everything. Couldn't do this without their support. Family. Everyone except me." That night, I broke. I sat on my apartment floor, crying harder than I had in years. Not just over James, not just over Anna, but over the realization that my family had chosen their golden couple and left me on the outside. And yet, even in that pit of heartbreak, a small, stubborn part of me whispered, maybe I'm not the one who needs to apologize. Maybe they are, because deep down, I knew the truth. I hadn't ruined everything. I had just stopped pretending their golden image was flawless. And maybe that made me the asshole in their eyes. But in mine, It made me honest. If you're into stories that pull you right into the heart of messy family drama, stick around and hit like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. You ever have one of those moments where you walk into a room and suddenly realize you're the only one who doesn't know the family secret? That's exactly what happened to me last Christmas Eve, and it cracked my world open in ways I still haven't figured out how to deal with. My name's Mark. I'm 28, and for most of my life, I thought my family was pretty normal. Sure, my parents argued sometimes, my sister was dramatic, and my uncle always drank too much at barbecues. But we loved each other, and we showed up for birthdays, graduations, holidays. That was enough for me. But last Christmas, my girlfriend of 3 years, Emily, came home with me to meet my extended family for the first time. I thought it was going to be one of those sweet holiday milestones. Introducing the girl I planned on proposing to soon, watching her bond with my mom over recipes, seeing my dad pour her a glass of his famous eggnog. I had this picture in my head of cozy traditions and laughter. Instead, it turned into the ugliest fight I've ever witnessed, and I became the unwilling centerpiece of it. It started small like most things do. Dinner was on the table, candles lit, everyone passing plates of ham and mashed potatoes. Emily sat beside me, smiling politely, trying to make conversation with my cousins. My mom was in hostess mode, fussing about whether everyone had enough gravy. My dad cracked his usual dry jokes. For maybe 10 minutes, it felt normal. Then my sister, Caroline, 2 years older than me and notoriously blunt, looked directly at Emily and said, "So, do you know who you're really dating?" I swear the fork slipped right out of my hand and clattered on my plate. Emily froze mid-smile. My mom gasped softly, like she'd just watched someone drop an heirloom vase. My dad muttered Caroline's name like a warning. But Caroline leaned back in her chair, arms crossed, waiting for an answer. "What do you mean?" Emily asked carefully. Caroline's eyes cut to me, then back to Emily. "Mark's not exactly the angel he pretends to be. I just don't think it's fair you're sitting here, smiling like everything's perfect when you clearly don't know the half of it." The whole table went silent. Even my drunk uncle stopped chewing. My stomach knotted because I had no idea what she was about to say. Yeah, I made mistakes in my past. Who hasn't? But nothing I thought was bad enough to warrant this kind of setup. "Caroline, drop it," my mom said firmly. "This is not the time." "No, Mom," Caroline shot back. "This is exactly the time. I'm sick of everyone pretending. He doesn't get to keep living like he's innocent while the rest of us are stuck with the truth." Emily's hand slipped out of mine onto the table. My heart started hammering in my chest. "Caroline, what are you talking about?" I demanded, but my voice cracked in a way that betrayed how shaken I felt. Caroline tilted her head, almost smug. "Should I tell her? Or do you want to?" The thing is, I genuinely didn't know what she was referring to. My mind started racing through old memories. The stupid arguments, the lies I'd told to get out of trouble in high school, the one-night stands before Emily that I hadn't exactly advertised. But nothing seemed explosive enough to warrant this kind of stage. Emily's face had gone pale. "Mark?" she whispered. And that's when my dad slammed his hand down on the table, making the glasses rattle. "Enough," he barked. "Caroline, you will not ruin Christmas with this nonsense." But Caroline just sneered. "Of course you'd say that, Dad. You've been covering for him his whole life. Just like you covered for yourself." My mom's face turned ashen. My uncle muttered, "Oh boy," under his breath. And I sat there, caught between fury and fear, realizing I wasn't just about to lose Emily. I was about to uncover something my family had been hiding for years. Emily pushed back her chair. "I think I should go," she said softly. "No," I blurted, standing up too fast. "Don't. Please. Let's figure this out." Caroline's lips curled into a bitter smile. "Sure, Mark. Go ahead. Tell her everything. Or should I?" I looked around at my parents and my cousins avoiding eye contact, at Emily clutching her purse like it was a lifeline. My dad's jaw was clenched so hard I thought he might break a tooth. My mom's eyes were shining with tears. That's when I realized the horrible truth. Whatever Caroline was about to reveal, it wasn't just about me. It was about all of us. And Emily had walked straight into the middle of a family implosion I hadn't even seen coming. The rest of the night blurred together in fragments. raised voices, Emily leaving in tears, my mom begging Caroline to stop, my dad storming out onto the porch. By the end, I was left sitting alone at the dining table, staring at cold food and feeling like my entire life had just collapsed. I didn't even know what story Caroline thought she was telling, but Emily clearly believed there was some dark truth I'd been hiding. She hasn't answered my texts since that night. And my family? It feels like we've crossed a line we can't go back from. The worst part is I still don't know if Caroline was bluffing or if there really is something I've been shielded for my entire life. And I don't know if I'm the asshole for not demanding answers sooner. The next morning, I woke up to silence. No clatter of dishes in the kitchen. No sound of my dad's boots pacing the porch. Just a suffocating stillness that pressed down on me. My head was pounding like I'd been hit, even though I hadn't had a single drop of alcohol the night before. I lay there staring at the ceiling, the events of Christmas Eve replaying in my mind on a cruel loop. Caroline's smirk, Emily's pale face, my mom's shaking hands. I couldn't shake the image of Emily walking out the door, not even looking back. I finally dragged myself out of bed around noon. My parents were sitting at the kitchen table, mugs of coffee untouched between them. My mom looked exhausted, like she hadn't slept. My dad's face was hard, like granite. Neither of them spoke until I sat down. Finally, my mom whispered, "Mark, I think you deserve to know." The pit in my stomach deepened. Know what? Caroline wouldn't say anything. She just blew everything up and left. My dad slammed his mug down, coffee sloshing over the rim. She had no right, he growled. She had every right, my mom said quietly. She turned to me, her eyes red. "Mark, your sister wasn't lying. There is something you don't know. Something we should have told you years ago." I froze. Every nerve in my body went tight. "What are you talking about?" My mom reached across the table and took my hand, her palm trembling against mine. "Your father isn't your biological father." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I jerked my hand back. "What?" She swallowed hard. "When I was younger, before I met your dad, I was in a relationship. It was complicated, and when I found out I was pregnant with you, that man wanted nothing to do with us. I was scared I was alone, and then I met your father. He loved me. He loved you, and he chose to raise you as his own. We thought it was better to let you grow up without confusion." The room spun. My chest tightened like I couldn't breathe. "So all this time you lied to me?" My dad finally spoke, his voice low but steady. "I may not be your blood, Mark, but I am your father. I've been there every day of your life. Don't let biology erase that." I shoved my chair back, standing too fast. "You should have told me. You both should have told me before Caroline got to throw it in my face in front of Emily. Do you realize how that looked? How that made me look?" My mom started to cry. "We thought we were protecting you." "No," I snapped, pacing the kitchen. "You were protecting yourselves. You didn't want to deal with the fallout. So you built this little lie and expected me to live in it forever." The sound of the front door opening cut me off. Caroline walked in, her face unapologetic. "Guess he knows now." I rounded on her. "Why? Why did you do that? Why in front of Emily?" Caroline shrugged. "Because you were parading around like everything was perfect, like this little family of ours was so damn wholesome. Someone had to pull the curtain back. And Emily deserved to know what she was really getting into." "You didn't do it for Emily," I shot back. "You did it to hurt me." Caroline's lips curved. "Maybe. Or maybe I just got sick of all the secrets. Either way, it's out now. You can thank me later." My dad stood, his face red with fury. "Caroline, get out. You caused enough damage." But Caroline didn't budge. "No, Dad. You caused this. You and Mom, playing house, lying to him his whole life. Don't look at me like I'm the villain when you two are the ones who built this mess." The argument spiraled until I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed my jacket and stormed out. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Emily. For a split second, I felt relief. Maybe she wanted to talk. Maybe we could fix this. But her text wasn't what I hoped for. "I need space. I don't know who you are anymore. I can't do this." I stopped dead on the sidewalk, the cold air biting my face. I typed a dozen responses, deleted them all. Finally, I just shoved my phone back in my pocket and kept walking, aimless. Over the next few days, things didn't get better. Emily blocked me on everything. My parents tried to patch things up, But every time I looked at them, I felt like I was staring at strangers. Caroline acted smug, like she'd finally won some invisible war. But here's the thing, the longer I sat with it, the angrier I became, not just at them, but at myself. Because maybe Caroline was right about one thing. I had been living in a bubble, pretending my family was something it wasn't. And maybe, deep down, I'd always sensed there was something off. When I finally called Emily again, it went straight to voicemail. I left her a message anyway. I know you don't trust me right now. I know everything looks messy, but I'm still the same guy you fell in love with. Please give me a chance to explain. She never called back. It's been months now, and I still don't know if I'll ever forgive my parents. I still don't know if Emily's gone for good. But one thing's certain. That Christmas broke me in ways I didn't know I could break. And maybe Caroline was right. I wasn't living in the full truth. But the way she tore the lid off destroyed everything I thought I could hold on to. Now I'm left wondering if I'm the asshole for resenting her, or if the real assholes are the ones who raised me in a lie. If you've been here this long, you're the kind of listener that keeps me going. A quick like and subscribe would honestly mean the world. It motivates me to keep bringing you these stories every day. You're seriously going to choose her over your own family? That was the sentence my mom screamed at me across the dining room table, while my dad sat with his arms crossed and my younger sister avoided eye contact completely. That was the exact moment I realized my entire family was against my relationship. And no matter what I said, they had already made up their minds. The story goes back a year before that heated night. I, 29M, met my girlfriend, now ex, Melissa, 27F, at a work conference. She was smart, funny, and honestly way out of my league. We bonded over late-night coffee runs and complaining about endless PowerPoint presentations. When the conference ended, I figured that was it. But Melissa lived only 2 hours away, and we started talking every single day. Within months, we were dating. For me, Melissa was everything I didn't even know I wanted in a partner. She was patient where I was impulsive, adventurous where I was cautious, and she had this way of making me feel like I wasn't just existing, I was living. But for my family, she was a ticking time bomb they were convinced would destroy my life. The first issue came during Christmas when I brought her to meet my family. Melissa grew up in foster care, so she didn't really have family traditions in the way my mom cherished. My mom is the type of person who plans Christmas down to the exact second. We have a ritual. Stockings first, then breakfast casserole, then gifts, then carols. Melissa didn't know the order, so she got excited and opened one of the smaller gifts early. My mom froze, gave her a death glare, and said, "That's not how we do things here." I brushed it off at the time, but it was the beginning of a long list of offenses my family kept adding to their mental file against Melissa. She laughed too loudly. She didn't go to church with us. She wore inappropriate dresses to family dinners, which were just normal sundresses. She was too outspoken when politics came up at Thanksgiving. Every little thing was twisted into proof she wasn't the right fit. Meanwhile, I was falling deeper in love with her. The real war started when Melissa got a new job offer in another state. It was a huge opportunity, higher pay, better growth, everything she had worked for. She asked if I would consider moving with her. We'd been together for over a year at that point, and I was already half living at her apartment anyway. To me, it felt like a natural step. But when I told my family, they acted like I had said I was moving to another planet. "You're abandoning us," my mom cried. "You're choosing her over the family who raised you." My dad said, "Don't come crying back here when she breaks your heart. You're making the biggest mistake of your life." My sister chimed in, "You're blinded. She's manipulating you. Everyone can see it but you." I tried reasoning with them, but they were relentless. According to them, Melissa wasn't just the wrong partner. She was the enemy. Despite their disapproval, I decided to move. And that was when everything exploded. My parents stopped calling. My sister blocked me on social media. Even my grandparents, who had always been supportive, started giving me the cold shoulder. My family basically disowned me for choosing Melissa. At first, Melissa and I thought we could get through it. We leaned on each other. We built a new life together in the city. For a while, it felt like us against the world, and we were winning. But the cracks started to show. The guilt of losing my family weighed on me constantly. Melissa could feel it. She kept asking, "Do you regret it? Do you wish you'd stayed?" And I always said no, but deep down, part of me did miss them, even with all their flaws. The breaking point came 6 months into our new life when Melissa asked me to cut ties with my family completely. She said, "They've shown who they are. They don't respect us. You need to choose, me or them, once and for all." I froze, because hadn't I already chosen? I moved states, left my family behind, and started over for her. But now she wanted me to burn every last bridge, no possibility of reconciliation. And that's when I started to question everything. Was I an asshole for putting Melissa before my family? Or was my family toxic for making me choose in the first place? And if Melissa truly loved me, why wasn't what I'd already sacrificed enough? The fights became constant. Small disagreements about dishes or bills turned into screaming matches about loyalty and betrayal. Melissa would cry and say, "You don't love me enough." I would yell back, I gave up everything for you." And yet, even in the middle of those fights, I couldn't walk away. I was terrified of losing her, terrified of proving my family right. One night, during yet another blow-up, Melissa shouted something that shook me to my core. "Maybe your family was right about me after all." I stood there, stunned, not knowing if she meant it or if it was just anger talking. But once those words were out, I couldn't unhear them. That's where things spiraled into the point where I honestly don't know if I ruined my own life or if I just got caught in the crossfire of two sides that were never going to accept each other. And now, months later, I'm sitting here trying to piece together where it all went wrong. Was I the asshole for pushing my family away for the woman I loved? Or was my family the problem for never giving her a chance? Or maybe, just maybe, Melissa and I both became collateral damage in a war that nobody was supposed to win. But the story doesn't end there. Because the final straw, the one that completely shattered everything between us, was something I never saw coming. The final straw came on a night that should have been one of the happiest moments of my life. Melissa and I had been together almost 2 years at this point, and I thought maybe, just maybe, things were stabilizing. We'd gotten into a better rhythm with work and bills, and even though my family hadn't come around, I was trying to accept that maybe they never would. Melissa had been dropping hints for weeks about wanting to take the next step. I wasn't clueless. I knew what she meant, and despite all the chaos, I still loved her enough to picture a future together. So I did what most people in love would do. I started looking at rings. I picked out one that I thought was perfect. Not too flashy, not too simple. Something timeless. I planned a dinner at this rooftop restaurant overlooking the city skyline. It wasn't extravagant, but it felt like us. I wanted to show her that even after everything, I was still choosing her. The night started off beautifully. She looked stunning in a dark green dress, her hair falling in loose curls. We laughed, we talked, and for the first time in months, I felt like we were just two people in love, not two people caught in a never-ending war with my family. When dessert came, I pulled out the ring. My heart was racing so hard I thought it might actually give out. I got down on one knee, opened the box, and asked, "Melissa, will you marry me?" Her reaction wasn't what I expected. She gasped, covered her mouth, but instead of joy, her eyes filled with tears. Not happy tears, sad ones. She whispered, "Oh my God," but not in the excited way, in a devastated way. Then she shook her head. Right there, on that rooftop, she told me no. The air felt like it had been sucked out of my lungs. I stayed frozen on one knee, staring up at her, trying to process. I'd pictured so many scenarios, her crying happy tears, her saying yes, maybe even her joking with me before agreeing. But never this. She took my hands and said, "I can't. Not like this. Not when your family hates me. Not when you're still torn between me and them. I need to know you're all in 100%, and I don't feel that." I wanted to scream that I was all in, that I'd already given up my family for her. But deep down, I knew what she meant. My heart still ached for reconciliation with them, and Melissa could feel it. She wasn't wrong. I stood up slowly, slipped the ring back into the box, and sat down without a word. The rest of the dinner was a blur. Neither of us touched dessert. That night, back at the apartment, the real fight erupted. Melissa said, I can't spend my life wondering if you'll run back to them. I need someone who's fully mine. I shouted back, I am yours. Do you have any idea what I've sacrificed? I haven't spoken to my mom in almost a year. My sister blocked me. My dad won't even answer my calls. And you're telling me that's not enough? She started crying, shaking her head. It's not about cutting them off. It's about your heart. You're still halfway there, even when you say you're not. I can feel it. You still want their approval. And she was right. As much as I hated admitting it, she was right. We fought until sunrise. By the time the sun came up, Melissa said words that shattered me completely. I think we need to break up. I laughed bitterly, thinking she was joking. We just went through all this, and you're giving up now. Her voice cracked. I love you, but I can't keep fighting a war I'll never win. I can't keep being the villain in your family's story. And I can't marry a man who still has one foot in two worlds. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to beg. Part of me wanted to scream. But mostly I just felt numb. She packed a bag that morning and left. Just like that, 2 years, countless memories, and all the sacrifices I'd made. Gone in a single night. The weeks after were brutal. I kept replaying everything in my head. If I had defended her more fiercely, would my family have come around? If I had cut them off more cleanly, would Melissa have felt secure enough to say yes? Or was it doomed from the start because neither side was willing to budge? I tried reaching out to her, but she never responded. I even thought about calling my family, but pride and shame kept me from dialing. What would I even say? Hey, you were right. She left me. I couldn't give them the satisfaction. Months later, my sister finally texted me. Not with sympathy, not with comfort. Just, Mom heard Melissa dumped you. Maybe now you'll come back to your senses. That single message made me want to throw my phone at the wall. Even after all this time, they didn't care about my pain. They only cared about being right. And that's when it hit me. Maybe I hadn't lost just Melissa. Maybe I'd lost my family long before that, too. So here I am now, stuck in this strange in-between place. My relationship is gone, my family is distant, and I feel like I don't belong anywhere. I don't know if I was the asshole for choosing love over blood, or if Melissa was the asshole for demanding I erase my family completely, or if my family was the asshole for never accepting the woman I loved. All I know is that somewhere in the middle of all this, I lost everything. Maybe the real asshole was me, for thinking I could hold on to both worlds, when in reality, I was never truly holding on to either. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. When love becomes a battleground, sometimes the only outcome is losing everything you try to protect. Subscribing helps me keep sharing stories like this. So if you've made it this far, hit that subscribe button and stick around for more. You ever reach a point where you look at your family and realize, I don't even recognize these people anymore? That's where I was sitting one summer evening at my mom's dining table, pushing cold mashed potatoes around my plate while everyone pretended the tension wasn't thick enough to choke on. It started with something small, my brother asking me how things were going with Kayla. I told him straight up, we're good. She just moved in, and we're figuring out the bills together. That was it. Just a normal answer. But my mom set down her fork like I'd just announced I was joining a cult. You're playing house with her already? Don't you think that's moving a little fast? I felt Kayla shift beside me. She hated moments like this, when my mom's tone got sharp and judgmental. Kayla wasn't the kind of person to snap back, though. She'd just bite her lip and try not to cry. So I did what I always did. I swallowed my frustration and said, Mom, we've been together almost 3 years. It's not fast. That should have been the end of it. But my dad chimed in, chuckling in that condescending way of his. Back in our day, you didn't live together before marriage. That's why people took commitment seriously. I couldn't help myself. I laughed, but not in a nice way. Back in your day, you also thought therapy was for crazy people, but guess what? Times change. The table went silent. My mom's face turned red. Kayla squeezed my leg under the table, a silent plea to let it go. But I was tired of letting it go. Because this wasn't just about dinner. This was years of little digs, side comments, and backhanded compliments aimed at Kayla. Every time we visited, my mom found a way to remind her she wasn't one of us. Every time Kayla tried to talk about her job, my dad made some remark about how real work meant putting in physical labor, not sitting at a desk. And the thing is, Kayla never fought back. She always said, "It's fine, I don't want to make things worse." But watching her sit there that night, trying not to shrink into herself, I thought, if I don't stand up for her now, I'm the asshole too. So I put my fork down and said, "You guys don't have to like the way I live my life, but you're not going to disrespect the woman I love." That lit the fuse. My mom threw her napkin on the table and said, "Disrespect? We've been nothing but polite to her. Maybe if she tried harder to fit in." Kayla's chair scraped back before I even registered what was happening. She whispered, "I'm going to wait in the car," and walked out. And just like that, it was me versus my whole family. My sister rolled her eyes. "God, you're so dramatic. Nobody hates Kayla. You're just looking for reasons to fight." My dad shook his head. "You've changed, man. She's got you wrapped around her finger. You used to have backbone." And my mom, the grand finale, "If she really loved you, she wouldn't pull you away from your family." I snapped. "You think she's the problem? You're the problem. Every single time we come here, you find some way to tear her down. And then you act like I'm overreacting when I call it out. You don't want me happy. You want me obedient." It got ugly after that. Voices were raised. Doors were slammed. I left without even grabbing dessert, which is saying something because my mom makes the best damn peach cobbler on earth. In the car, Kayla stared out the window, her eyes glassy. She whispered, "This is why I hate coming here. I feel like I'll never be enough." That cut deeper than anything my family said, because she was enough for me. But I couldn't convince her of that if my own family kept proving otherwise. On the way home, we didn't talk much. The silence wasn't comfortable like it usually was. It was heavy. That night, lying in bed, I stared at the ceiling and wondered if this was the beginning of the end. Not because I didn't love Kayla, but because I was terrified she'd get tired of fighting battles that weren't hers to fight. And the worst part, I didn't know if I had the strength to choose between them. Because no matter how much I hated my family in those moments, they were still my family. And no matter how much I loved Kayla, I could see the cracks forming, and I didn't know if love would be enough to fill them. The week after that, dinner felt like walking through mud. Everything between Kayla and me was off. She wasn't cold, exactly, but she was quiet. We still went through the motions, cooking dinner together, watching our shows, brushing our teeth side by side. But the easy laughter we used to share was gone. I tried to tell myself it was just one bad night, that once things cooled down, she'd bounce back. But every time I caught her staring at nothing, her face heavy, I knew it wasn't that simple. Finally, one night, I asked. We were sitting on the couch, half watching some reality show neither of us cared about, when I muted the TV and said, "Talk to me. What's going on in your head?" She hesitated, chewing on her lip like she always does when she's holding back. Then she sighed. "I don't know how much longer I can do this." My stomach dropped. "Do what?" "Be the villain in your family's story." Her voice cracked. Every time I walk into that house, it feels like I'm under a microscope. No matter what I say or do, it's wrong. And you, she paused, wiping at her eyes. "You're caught in the middle, and I hate that. I hate putting you in that position." I reached for her hand, but she pulled away, folding her arms around herself. "Kayla, you're not the villain. They're just..." I stopped because what excuse could I make? They weren't just anything. They were cruel, judgmental, stubborn. "They're my family," I finally said. "But that doesn't mean they're right. I don't care what they think. I want you." She shook her head, tears slipping down her cheeks. "Wanting me isn't enough if it means we're always going to be at war with them. That's not a life I want." Her words gutted me, because I realized something then. She wasn't just venting. She was thinking about leaving. I panicked. I started promising things I wasn't sure I could deliver. "I'll talk to them. I'll set boundaries. We'll stop going over there if that's what it takes." She whispered, "You've said that before." And she was right. This wasn't the first time we'd had this conversation. Every time, I swore I'd stand my ground. Every time, I caved. Because the second my mom started crying or my dad got angry, I folded like a damn lawn chair. That night, she slept on the couch. Not because we were fighting, but because she said she needed space. I lay awake in bed, staring at her empty side, wondering how everything got so messed up. The next morning, I did something I should have done years ago. I called my mom. She picked up cheerful, like nothing had happened. "Hi, honey. How's your morning?" I didn't waste time. "We need to talk about how you treat Kayla." Silence. Then a scoff. "Excuse me. You heard me. You make her feel like she's not welcome. Like no matter what she does, it's not enough. And I'm done pretending that's okay. My mom's voice hardened. So now you're going to lecture me about how I treat people in my own house. Yes, I snapped. Because it's not just your house when we're there. It's supposed to be family. And family doesn't tear down the people we love. She huffed. I don't know what she's told you, but I've been nothing but polite. I cut her off. Polite isn't rolling your eyes when she talks about her job. Polite isn't making snide comments about her clothes or the fact that we live together. Polite isn't acting like she's a threat instead of part of this family. My mom's tone went icy. You're choosing her over us. And there it was. The ultimatum she'd been dancing around for months. Yes, I said, my voice shaking but firm. If that's how you want to see it, then yes. I'm choosing her because she actually makes me happy. You just make me feel like I'll never be good enough. The silence that followed was deafening. Finally, she muttered, well, I hope she's worth it, and hung up. I sat there, phone in my hand, feeling both sick and relieved. Sick because I knew this would cause a war. Relieved because for the first time, I'd actually stood my ground. When Kayla came home from work that night, I told her what I'd done. She froze, her eyes wide. You really said that? I nodded. I'm in it, Kay. I'm done letting them make you feel small. If they can't accept you, then they don't get us. She covered her mouth with her hands, like she didn't believe it. Then she threw her arms around me and sobbed into my chest. For the first time in weeks, I felt hope. But of course, nothing with my family is ever simple. 2 days later, my sister showed up at our apartment, furious. She barged in without knocking and started yelling. Do you have any idea what you've done? Mom's been crying nonstop. Dad won't even talk to anyone. You're ripping this family apart. I told her calmly, no, they're doing that by refusing to respect the person I love. She glared at Kayla. You happy now? You've got him all to yourself. Kayla flinched, and I saw red. Get out, I said. My sister stared at me like I'd slapped her. You're choosing her over us? I'm choosing peace over drama. I shot back. If you can't handle that, then maybe you need to look at yourself. She stormed out, slamming the door so hard a picture fell off the wall. Kayla sat on the couch, trembling. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I sat beside her and took her face in my hands. Don't you dare apologize. This isn't your fault. It's theirs. And if I lose them over this, then so be it. She searched my eyes like she was trying to see if I really meant it. Finally, she nodded, and for the first time in a long time, she smiled. That night, lying in bed with her curled against me, I realized something. Families are supposed to love you unconditionally. But sometimes the people we choose, the ones who see us, who lift us up, who make us better, they're the real family. And if my mom and dad couldn't understand that, maybe it was time I stopped chasing their approval. Because the truth is, I'd rather build a future with Kayla than live in the ruins of the past. And deep down, I think they knew that too. If you're still here with me, you're the kind of person who sticks through the hard parts to see where things end up. And that means a lot. If you want more stories like this, go ahead and hit subscribe. It helps more than you know. Some nights don't feel like they're ever going to end, you know? The kind where the air in the room is so heavy you can practically feel it pressing down on you. That's how it felt the night everything cracked open between me and my family. It all started with a Sunday dinner. And let me tell you, Sunday dinners in my family weren't just meals. They were performances. My mom would set the table like we were hosting royalty. My dad would crack the same recycled jokes. My sister would show off her new job or clothes. And, I was expected to play along, smile, and not make waves. But this time was different. Kayla, my girlfriend, had been coming with me for the past year, and each time, she left with that same hollow look in her eyes. My family didn't scream at her or insult her directly. No, they preferred death by 1,000 cuts. Snide comments disguised as jokes, judgment hidden in smiles, comparisons slipped in a conversation like knives sliding between ribs. That night, the cutting was worse than usual. We'd barely sat down before my mom leaned across the table with that too bright smile. So, Kayla, how's your little marketing job going? Still busy making Instagram posts for companies? Kayla shifted uncomfortably. but she answered politely. It's going well. Actually, we just landed a big contract with a clothing brand. Oh, that's cute, my sister interrupted. It's kind of like pretend work, right? Like social media stuff isn't really a career. I clenched my jaw, but Kayla just gave a tight smile. It's a real career when it pays the bills. My dad chuckled. Well, as long as you're happy, I guess. But hey, don't expect it to last. Fads come and go, real jobs stick around. The table laughed. Everyone but me. And I swear I saw something snap in Kayla's eyes. Something she'd been holding back for too long. She excused herself, quietly, and went to the bathroom. The second she was out of earshot, my mom sighed dramatically. She's so sensitive. Honestly, I don't know how you put up with it. That was it. The breaking point. I slammed my fork down so hard the whole table jumped. Are you serious right now? Do you even hear yourself? My sister rolled her eyes. Here we go. No, don't you dare. I'm sick of this. Every single time we come here, you find ways to belittle her. You think it's funny or harmless, but it's not. It's cruel. My dad straightened, his face going hard. Watch your tone. You're in my house. I don't care whose house this is, I snapped. Respect should be the bare minimum. The silence that followed was thick. My mom opened her mouth, but before she could say anything, Kayla came back in, her eyes red. She'd been crying, and seeing her like that, broken down by people who claimed to love me, lit a fire in me I couldn't put out. We're leaving, I told her. Kayla froze. It's okay. No, it's not. We're done here. I grabbed her hand, stood up, and for the first time in my life, walked out of that house mid-dinner. The car ride home was quiet, except for Kayla's soft sniffles. I kept glancing at her, guilt eating me alive. I'm sorry, I finally said. She shook her head. Why are you apologizing? You didn't say those things. I didn't stop them soon enough. She stared out the window, voice low. I don't know how much longer I can do this. My chest tightened. Kayla, please don't say that. Her hand tightened around mine, but her words broke me. I love you, but I can't keep being the punching bag for your family. I'm tired, and it hurts too much. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard my mom's laugh, my sister's digs, my dad's dismissive tone. And behind all of it, I saw Kayla's tears. By morning, I knew what I had to do. The next day, I went back to my parents' house alone. My mom greeted me with a smile like nothing had happened. Oh good, you're back. Did Kayla calm down? Don't, I snapped. Her smile faltered. Excuse me. You heard me. Stop pretending this is just Kayla being sensitive. You've been tearing her down since day one, and I'm not going to let it slide anymore. My dad came into the room, arms crossed. You don't talk to your mother like that. And you don't talk to my girlfriend like that. My voice shook, but I didn't back down. If you can't treat her with respect, then you don't get to see me either. The look on their faces, it was like I'd slapped them. You'd choose her over us? My mom whispered. Yes. My voice was firm, steadier than I felt. Because she treats me better than you do. Because she lifts me up instead of tearing me down. And because I love her enough to fight for her, even if it means losing you. My mom's eyes filled with tears. My dad's jaw tightened. My sister came downstairs just in time to hear me say it. And she exploded. Unbelievable. You're throwing away your family for some girl? No, I said coldly. I'm throwing away the constant disrespect. If you want to be part of my life, you'll need to respect her. End of story. And then I walked out. When I got home, Kayla was sitting at the kitchen table, staring at her coffee like it held all the answers she needed. I sat across from her and told her everything. Every word I said, every reaction they gave me. She stared at me, stunned. You actually said that? Yes. Her eyes filled with tears, but this time they weren't from pain. They were from relief. I don't deserve you, she whispered. No, I said, reaching across the table for her hand. I don't deserve you, but I'm not letting them take you from me. She squeezed my hand so hard it almost hurt. Then maybe we still have a chance. And in that moment, for the first time in weeks, I believed her. The relief I felt after that kitchen table conversation with Kayla didn't last long. Because reality has a way of sneaking back in especially when family's involved. The text started the very next morning. First from my mom, "We need to talk. You can't just walk out on your family like that." Then my sister, "Wow, so you're really choosing her over us. Good luck when she leaves you. We'll see who you come crawling back to." And finally, my dad's short, sharp message, "Call me." Now, I ignored all of them. For the first time in my life, I set boundaries, and I meant to keep them. But boundaries are like fences. If you don't hold them firm, people will climb over. And my family? They were Olympic-level climbers. By the end of that week, Kayla looked more anxious than relieved. Every ding of my phone made her flinch. Every time I sighed at a message, her face tightened. One night, she finally broke. "I can't live like this," she said softly. "It feels like they're sitting in the room with us, even when they're not. I just want peace." I pulled her close. "Then we'll make peace for ourselves. I don't need them." But the truth? That was a lie. Because as much as I wanted to cut them off completely, a piece of me still ached. They were my family. I grew up in that house. I knew every creak in the floorboards, every Sunday smell of roast chicken. Letting go of that wasn't easy, no matter how toxic it had become. And then the hammer dropped. A few weeks later, my sister called, not with insults, but with panic. "Dad's in the hospital." The words punched the air right out of me. My mind spun as she explained he'd collapsed at work. Hard issue. Nothing fatal yet, but serious. And just like that, the walls I'd built around myself cracked wide open. Kayla was the one who steadied me. "You should go," she said gently. I shook my head. "No. If I walk back in there, they'll think everything's forgiven." "This isn't about them," she whispered. "It's about you. Do you really want your last memory of your dad to be a fight at the dinner table?" Her words cut deeper than anything my family had said, because she was right. So I went. Walking into that sterile hospital room felt like stepping into enemy territory. My mom was sitting by Dad's bed, eyes swollen from crying. My sister hovered near the window, arms crossed. The tension when I entered could have been sliced with a knife. But then my dad looked up, pale and hooked to monitors, and for the first time in years, he didn't look strong or unshakable. He looked small. "Hey, son," he rasped, and all my anger melted. "Hey, Dad." We talked quietly. Nothing deep, nothing dramatic. Just words. And in those words, I realized something that nearly broke me. He wasn't the monster I'd built in my head. He was flawed, stubborn, proud, but he was still my father. When I left that night, my mom stopped me in the hallway. Her voice shook. "I don't want to lose you too." I stared at her, torn between rage and love. "Then stop making me choose." Because I already did. Her eyes filled with tears, but she nodded. And for the first time, I wondered if maybe, just maybe, there was a chance for change. Kayla was waiting at home when I got back. She didn't ask questions. She just pulled me in her arms and let me cry into her shoulder. And in that moment, I knew, whatever happened with my family, she was my real home. But peace doesn't come easy. Because a week later, during another tense visit, my sister cornered me in the hospital cafeteria. "You're pathetic," she spat. "You act like you're some hero for standing up to us, but really you're just weak. You're throwing away the only people who'll ever truly have your back." "Ik sterfte her, exhausted." Having my back doesn't mean stabbing the person I love. If that's your idea of family, I don't want it. Her face twisted. "She's going to leave you. And when she does, don't expect us to pick up the pieces." That was the last conversation we had for months. Fast forward to today. Dad's recovering, slowly. Mom's softer, more careful with her words. My sister? She's still ice cold. But me? I am stronger. Kayla and I have weathered storms I never thought we'd survive. And maybe I did lose a version of my family along the way. But I gained something better, a love worth fighting for, and a voice I should have found years ago. So if you're listening to this, wondering whether you're an asshole for drawing lines in the sand with your family, hear me when I say this. You're not. Protecting the person who loves you isn't cruelty, it's courage. And sometimes it's the only way to break free. And hey, if you've been here with me through this whole story, I know you care about these kinds of real, messy, emotional journeys. So stick around, hit subscribe, and let me keep telling you stories that might just feel like your own. You ever walk into a room and feel like the air itself is heavy with judgment? That's what it felt like every single time I sat down for dinner with my family. My dad would sit at the head of the table like some kind of king, my mom would nervously fuss with her napkin, and my older sister, Amanda, would shoot me looks that could slice glass. On the outside, we looked like the perfect American family. Big suburban house, 2 cars, weekend barbecues. But inside, we were a mess. My dad ruled the house with his temper. My mom barely spoke up. And Amanda, well, she had this way of making me feel like I was always one step away from screwing up my entire life. The story really started when I told my family I was planning to move in with my girlfriend, Sarah. We've been dating for over a year, and things were getting serious. She was the first person who actually made me feel seen, the first person who didn't treat me like some screw-up. I waited until after dinner one night to bring it up. My dad had just finished ranting about politics. Amanda was scrolling on her phone, and Mom was silently stacking plates. I cleared my throat and said, So, Sarah and I found this apartment downtown. We're thinking of moving in together next month. You would have thought I announced I was joining a cult. Dad slammed his fork down. Are you out of your damn mind? Living with some girl before marriage? That's a disgrace. Amanda smirked. Honestly, it's hilarious. You barely keep your own room clean, and you think you can handle bills, rent, a relationship? Please. Mom just whispered, Sweetheart, are you sure? Maybe you should wait a little. And in that moment, I felt the weight of years of their expectations crushing me. I wasn't the golden child. Amanda was. She had the degree, the corporate job, the fiancé they all adored. Me? I was the one who dropped out of college after 2 years, bounced around different jobs, and was apparently destined to disappoint them forever. But Sarah was different. She made me want to try. She made me believe I wasn't just a family failure. So I pushed back. I'm not asking for permission. I'm telling you what I'm doing. The silence that followed was brutal. Dad leaned back in his chair, jaw tight. If you walk out of this house and move in with that girl, don't expect to come crawling back when it all falls apart. Amanda Materd, spoiled brat, always thinks he knows better. And Mom? She just looked at me with those tired, watery eyes that said more than her words ever could. I walked away from that table shaking. Not just from anger, but from fear. Because deep down, I wondered, what if they were right? What if I failed again? What if Sarah woke up one day and realized she was too good for me? Still, I moved in with her. The first few months were like a dream. We decorated the place together, cooked dinners, had late-night talks that stretched until morning. For once, I felt like I was building something that was mine. But then cracks started showing. Little things like arguments about money. I picked up extra shifts at work, but it never felt like enough. Sarah started getting frustrated when bills piled up. And then there was the issue of family, hers versus mine. Her parents adored me, invited me to dinners, asked about my day, made me feel like part of something. But every time I called home, it was cold silence. My mom would answer the phone, make small talk, then pass it to Dad, who barely spoke. Amanda stopped responding to my texts altogether. One night, Sarah asked me, Why do you even bother trying with them? They clearly don't respect you. And I didn't know how to answer, because as much as I hated the way they treated me, they were still my family. The breaking point came on Thanksgiving. Sarah invited me to her parents' house, but I felt this stubborn need to show up at mine. Maybe I thought if I sat down at that table again, they'd see I wasn't the failure they believed. Big mistake. The second I walked in with Sarah, my dad's face darkened. Amanda rolled her eyes so hard I thought they'd get stuck. Dinner turned into a battlefield. Dad started grilling me about money. Amanda made snide comments about playing house, and Mom sat there in silence, pretending not to hear the insults. Finally, Sarah snapped. You all treat him like garbage. Do you even realize how hard he works? How much he does for the people he loves? The room went dead quiet. Then Dad stood up and pointed at the door. Get out. Both of you. And just like that, I was disowned. We drove home in silence. Sarah squeezed my hand and whispered, "You don't need them. You have me." But here's where it gets complicated. Because a few months later, Sarah started pulling away. She'd come home late, claim she was working overtime, and stop laughing at my dumb jokes. One night, I noticed she didn't even kiss me goodnight. My gut told me something was wrong, and when I finally asked, she broke down crying. "I love you," she said, "but I don't think I can do this anymore. Your family, your baggage, it's too much." And just like that, the one person who made me feel like I wasn't worthless left me. I sat there in the empty apartment we built together, surrounded by memories that now felt like knives. And I couldn't stop asking myself, was my family right all along? Did I screw everything up again? Or were they the reason everything fell apart in the first place? The night Sarah left, I sat on the couch for hours just staring at the blank TV screen. The apartment felt like a tomb. Every shadow reminded me of her. The throw blanket she always curled up with was still draped over the armrest. Her favorite mug sat in the sink. I thought if I just sat still enough, maybe she'd walk back in the door. But she didn't. The next morning, I went to work with red eyes and no sleep. My boss pulled me aside and asked if I was okay. I said I was fine. I wasn't. By the end of the week, Sarah had moved her things out. She left a note on the counter that read, "I'm sorry, but I can't carry this weight anymore." Wait, that's the word she used. Like loving me was some heavy burden strapped to her back. For days, I just drifted. I'd wake up, go to work, come home, and sit in the silence. The quiet was so loud it pressed against my chest. And every time I looked at my phone, I wondered if I should call my mom. But then I'd remember Thanksgiving. The way my dad told me to get out, the way Amanda laughed under her breath, the way Mom stayed silent. So I didn't call. Instead, I started drinking more. Just a beer after work at first, then two, then enough that I stopped counting. It dulled the ache, at least for a while. But when the buzz wore off, the loneliness came back sharper than before. One night, I was 3 drinks in when I got a text from Amanda. Just her name popping up on my screen made my stomach twist. I hadn't heard from her in months. Her text was short. "Mom's in the hospital. Dad doesn't want you to come." I read it over and over. My hands started shaking. My mom, the one person in that house who, despite everything, still had a little softness left for me, was in a hospital bed, and my dad had the nerve to ban me from seeing her. I grabbed my keys and drove straight there. I didn't care what anyone said. When I walked into her room, Amanda was sitting by the bed, scrolling on her phone. Dad was in the corner with his arms crossed. Mom looked so small under the hospital blanket, pale and tired. The second Dad saw me, his face turned red. "I told you not to come." I ignored him and went straight to Mom. I held her hand gently. "Hey, Mom, it's me." Her lips trembled into the faintest smile. "Hi, sweetheart." Amanda scoffed. "Unbelievable. You couldn't even bother to check on her before, but now you come playing the hero." I turned and glared at her. "You texted me, Amanda. Don't act like you didn't want me here." She shrugged. "I thought maybe you'd surprise me and do the right thing for once." "Guess not." My dad stepped forward. "Get out. You've done enough damage to this family." That's when I snapped. "Damage? You've spent my entire life making me feel like garbage. Like no matter what I do, it's never enough. And now you want to keep me from my own mother while she's lying in a hospital bed? You're the asshole here, Dad, not me." The words echoed in the room. Amanda's mouth dropped open. Mom squeezed my hand tighter. And for once, my dad didn't have a comeback. He just clenched his jaw and walked out. After he left, Amanda muttered, "You love blaming everyone else for your screw-ups." I turned to her, my voice low. "You love hiding behind Dad's approval like a shield. But deep down, you're just as scared of him as I was." She froze. For the first time in forever, she didn't have a snarky reply. She just looked away, and I realized maybe I'd hit a nerve. The next few days at the hospital were tense. Dad barely spoke to me. Amanda avoided me unless it was to take a jab. But Mom, she kept whispering little things when no one else was around. "Don't give up on yourself. You're stronger than you think. I love you, no matter what." Hearing those words almost broke me. because they were the words I'd been starving for my entire life. But then came the kicker. A week later, Sarah showed up at the hospital. She walked in carrying flowers, looking awkward. Amanda's eyes lit up, probably thrilled at the chance to stir the pot. "Wow," Amanda said loudly. "Look who it is. The girl who dumped my brother. What are you doing here?" Sarah's face turned red. She set the flowers on the counter and looked at me. "I heard about your mom. I wanted to check in. I'm sorry for how things ended." My chest tightened. Part of me wanted to scream at her, tell her she didn't get to show up now, not after walking away when I needed her most. But another part of me wanted to grab her hand and beg her to stay. Instead, I just said thanks. Sarah glanced at Amanda, then at me. "Can we talk later? Just us." Amanda jumped in before I could answer. "Don't do it. She's toxic, and you're too dumb to see it." "You snapped her." "Not everything's your business, Amanda. Stay out of it." Sarah and I ended up stepping into the hallway. She looked down, fidgeting with her sleeve. "I regret how I left. I panicked. Your family drama scared me, and I didn't think I could handle it. But walking away, it's been eating me alive." Her eyes filled with tears. "I still love you." Hearing those words nearly knocked the breath out of me. After everything, the fights, the silence, the hospital chaos, she still loved me? But then I remembered the nights alone, the note on the counter, the crushing loneliness. And I realized something I never expected. I still loved her too, but I didn't trust her anymore. That's when the asshole question really hit me. Was I the asshole if I let her back into my life, knowing she'd already walked away once? Or was I the asshole if I shut the door, even though part of me still wanted her? And underneath it all, was my family the real poison that ruined everything? Or was I just doomed to fail no matter what I did? I didn't have an answer. Not then. Maybe not even now. But standing in that hospital hallway, with Sarah crying in front of me and my family waiting inside, I knew one thing for sure. Every choice I made from here would define the rest of my life. And this time, I couldn't afford to screw it up. That's where I'll pause this story. If you've been hooked all the way here, then you're exactly the kind of listener I make these stories for. If you want more raw, emotional, and messy stories like this, hit that subscribe button right now. It means the world to me and keeps these stories coming. I didn't think one Sunday dinner would be the moment that split my family right down the middle. But that's exactly what happened. The smell of roast chicken was still in the air. The table was set the way my mom always liked. Candles lit even though it was still daylight, and everyone squeezed around the dining room table. You'd think it was a picture-perfect evening, but under the surface, there was tension you could cut with a knife. The kind of tension where every laugh sounds forced. Every comment has some sharp edge, and no one really wants to be there, but everyone shows up because that's what's expected. That's how my family works. Appearances matter more than feelings. I'm the middle kid. My older brother, Ryan, always carries himself like he's better than everyone else. My younger sister, Emily, has perfected the role of golden child. And me? I've always been the one who just keeps my head down, tries not to stir the pot, and hopes that maybe this time things won't explode. But life doesn't usually work that way, especially in my family. It started with one question, so small you wouldn't think it could matter. My mom looked at me across the table and asked, "So, when are you bringing someone home?" Her tone wasn't mean. It was casual, but everyone's head snapped toward me like I'd been caught doing something wrong. Ryan smirked immediately. I could see him already winding up for one of his condescending comments. Emily leaned forward, ready to play the angelic sister who would support me in the most backhanded way possible. I laughed nervously. "Mom, I'm not really seeing anyone right now." Ryan snorted into his glass of wine. "That's because no one wants to deal with your baggage." The room went still. Mom tried to shush him. Dad shot him a look. Emily whispered something about how Ryan didn't mean it like that. But I sat there, frozen, because the thing is, Ryan did mean it exactly like that. He always does. You see, last year I'd gone through a brutal breakup. I've been dating this woman, Leah, for nearly 3 years. We were talking about marriage. She even had a key to my apartment. She knew my family. she was practically woven into my life. And then, in the span of 2 weeks, everything fell apart. I found out she was cheating on me. Not just once, not just some fling, but a whole relationship she'd been carrying on behind my back for months. The worst part? She didn't even seem sorry. She told me she loved me, but wasn't in love with me anymore. Like that made it better. And then admitted that the guy she'd been seeing made her feel alive in ways I apparently didn't. That word, alive, still echoes in my head sometimes, usually late at night when I can't sleep. When Leah left, she didn't just take her clothes and her toothbrush. She took my sense of trust, my confidence, my belief that maybe I could build something lasting. And Ryan knew all of this. He was there when it happened. Yet here he was, months later, still using it as a punchline. I felt my chest tighten, my ears burned, but I stayed quiet. That's what I usually do. Keep the peace, let it roll off me. But this time, something inside me cracked. Ryan, I said, my voice sharper than I intended, don't talk about Leah like that. He smirked again, that smug little grin he always has when he thinks he's winning. What? Too soon? Come on, man. Everyone knows you dodged a bullet. She was just using you until someone better came along. Emily chimed in, trying to play peacemaker. Ryan, stop. That's not fair. You know what he went through. But Ryan cut her off with a laugh. Fair? Life's not fair, Em. I'm just saying what everyone else is thinking. He needs to toughen up instead of sulking around like some victim. The word victim hit me like a slap. Victim. That's how he saw me. Maybe that's how they all saw me. I put down my fork. You think I'm a victim? Ryan shrugged. If the shoe fits. That's when years of swallowed resentment started pouring out. You've been on my case my whole life. I snapped. Every mistake I make, you turn into a joke. Every time I struggle, you're the first one to point and laugh. And Mom and Dad just let you because God forbid anyone calls you out. You've been their golden boy since day one. The perfect son who can do no wrong, while the rest of us get compared to you. Ryan's smirk faded, but I wasn't done. Leah broke me. I admitted, my voice shaking. And instead of being there for me like a brother, you've used it as material for your little comedy routine. Do you know what it feels like to come home from work, sit in your car outside your own apartment, and not want to go inside because you know she's not going to be there? Do you know what it's like to check your phone out of habit, hoping for a text you know you'll never get? No, you don't, because no one's ever left you. The table was dead silent. Emily's eyes were wide. Mom looked like she might cry. Dad kept staring at his plate. And Ryan? For the first time in years, he didn't have a comeback. But here's the thing. The words kept spilling out. I'm done being the family punching bag, I said. I'm not your joke, Ryan. And if this family can't treat me with basic respect, then maybe I shouldn't be sitting at this table anymore. Mom gasped. Don't say that. But I stood up, my chair scraping back loud against the floor. I didn't storm out dramatically. I just walked to the door, grabbed my coat, and left. The sound of my mom calling my name followed me out, but I didn't turn back. The air outside was cool against my face. The street was quiet. My hands were shaking as I unlocked my car, slid inside, and just sat there, staring at the steering wheel. My heart was pounding like I'd just run a mile. I'd never spoken to my family like that before. And as much as it scared me, it also felt freeing. Like maybe, for once, I finally stood up for myself. But here's where the real twist comes in. As I sat there in my car, I checked my phone, and there was a text waiting for me. From Leah. It said, "Can we talk? I think I made a mistake." And just like that, everything I thought I knew about moving on, about standing my ground, about being free, it all came crashing down again. I stared at Leah's message for a long time. The glow of the screen lighting up my face in the dark car. Can we talk? I think I made a mistake. My thumb hovered over the screen, but I couldn't move. My chest felt tight, my head was buzzing, and all I could hear was Ryan's voice in my head calling me a victim. Part of me wanted to throw the phone across the car. Another part wanted to answer her immediately, to hear her voice again, to believe that maybe the nightmare I'd been living through had just been a bad dream. That maybe she realized what she'd lost. That maybe she missed me as much as I missed her. I didn't reply right away. I drove around aimlessly for an hour. past the gas station where we used to stop for snacks late at night, past the coffee shop where she first told me she loved me. Every corner of the city had her fingerprints on it. It hurt just to breathe. Finally, I pulled over in some empty parking lot, stared at her message again, and typed one word, when. She replied instantly, tomorrow night. Same place as before, the diner. The diner. The same place she dumped me in. The same place I sat stunned as she told me about the other guy. My stomach churned just thinking about walking back in there, but I agreed. The next day crawled by. At work I barely functioned. My coworkers probably thought I was hungover or sick. I just kept checking my phone, waiting for time to pass. When I finally walked into that diner, it felt like stepping back into a nightmare. Same checkered floors, same smell of coffee and fried food. Even the same waitress who gave me a sympathetic smile when she saw me. I slid into a booth, my hands clammy, my heart pounding. Leah walked in 5 minutes later. She looked almost the same, her hair pulled back, that nervous smile she always had when she wasn't sure how I'd react. For a moment, I wanted to get up and hug her, but I stayed seated. She sat down across from me. "Hey," she said softly. "Hey." My voice cracked more than I wanted it to. There was a long pause. Neither of us picked up the menus. Finally, she sighed. "I know I don't deserve this conversation. I know I hurt you more than anyone ever has. But I can't stop thinking about you." I laughed bitterly. "You can't stop thinking about me? You cheated on me for months, Leah. You walked out like I was nothing. And now you miss me." Tears welled in her eyes. I was stupid. I thought I wanted excitement. I thought I wanted freedom. But the truth is, that guy doesn't love me. He never did. And being with him made me realize. I threw away the one person who actually cared about me. Her words stabbed me right in the chest. I wanted to hate her. I wanted to throw it back in her face. But another part of me, the part that still remembered falling asleep with her head on my chest, the part that remembered how safe I felt around her, that part wanted to believe her. "Why now?" I asked. "Why after everything?" She reached across the table, her hand trembling. "Because I can't picture my life without you. And if there's any chance you'll take me back, even if it takes years to rebuild your trust, I'll fight for it." I stared at her hand, but I didn't take it. I couldn't. Instead, I asked, "Do you even know what you did to me? Do you know what those nights felt like when I lay awake wondering what I did wrong? When I drove past your apartment and saw his car there? Do you know what it's like to question every word, every kiss, every I love you because maybe it was all a lie?" Her tears spilled over. "I know, and I'm sorry. I'd give anything to undo it." I leaned back, exhausted. "I don't know if I can ever trust you again, Leah. And without trust, what do we even have?" She whispered a chance. That one word hung in the air. I left the diner that night, more confused than ever. She wanted me back. After all the pain, she wanted another chance. And deep down, God help me, I wanted it too. But then I thought about my family, about Ryan, about how he'd laugh in my face if I told him I was considering taking her back, about Emily, who would probably support me but secretly worry, about Mom and Dad, who'd just be relieved I wasn't alone anymore. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just about me and Leah. This was about proving something to myself, to my family. Proving that I wasn't a victim, that I had the power to decide my own story. So I told her I'd think about it. And I did. For weeks. I thought about it at work. I thought about it driving home. I thought about it lying awake in bed staring at the ceiling. The more I thought, the more I realized something I'd never admitted before. I didn't just want Leah back. I wanted the idea of Leah back. The comfort, the routine, the illusion that someone loved me unconditionally. But the reality? That was gone. The trust was gone. The innocence was gone. When I finally met her again, I knew what I had to say. We sat at the same diner, in the same booth. She looked at me with hope in her eyes, and it broke my heart all over again. "Leah," I said, "I'll always care about you. Part of me will probably always love you. But I can't go back. Not after everything. It would destroy me." She cried quietly, nodded. "I understand." And for the first time since she left, I felt free. Not the shaky kind of freedom I felt when I stormed out of my parents' house, but real freedom. The kind where I could finally breathe again. I walked out of that diner into the night air, and it felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. When I got back in my car, I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I just sat there in silence, staring out the windshield, and realized that for the first time in a long time, I was okay. Not fixed, not perfect, not healed overnight, but okay. And that was enough. And if you're still here with me, I'd love for you to stick around. Hit that like button and subscribe. It helps more than you know. Story 9. The argument started over something as small as a parking spot. Funny how families can explode over the tiniest things when the real tension's been building for years. It was a Saturday morning, and I'd stopped by my parents' house to drop off groceries. Mom had called earlier in the week, asking if I could pick up some things she couldn't find at her local store. I didn't mind. Truthfully, it felt good to do something for her. What I didn't expect was to find my older brother, Kevin, already parked in the driveway, blocking the only spot I usually use. I pulled up behind him, honked once, and waited. He came strolling out of the house with that same cocky grin he's worn since high school. What? You couldn't park on the street like a normal person? It's raining, I shot back, and I've got a trunk full of bags for Mom. Kevin rolled his eyes, always playing the martyr. Huh? You think you're the only one who helps her? I clenched my jaw. Kevin, just move the damn car. Mom came rushing out before it escalated further. Boys, please, not today. She was holding a dish towel, her hands damp like she'd just left the sink. Her voice had that sharp edge, the one she used when she was tired of refereeing us. I carried the bags inside, but Kevin followed close behind, muttering under his breath. That's when Dad spoke up from his recliner, newspaper in hand. You two need to grow up. I'm sick of hearing the same arguments every time you're in the same room. Kevin smirked. Tell that to him. He's the one who still acts like a teenager. I whipped around. Are you serious? You're the one who never shows up unless there's free food or money involved. I'm the one who actually helps Mom. The room went silent. Dad lowered his paper. Mom sighed, shaking her head. But Kevin, he just smiled wider, like he loved watching me unravel. The truth is, Kevin had always been Dad's favorite. He could do no wrong. Even when he dropped out of college, blew through money, and wrecked Dad's truck, there was always an excuse. Meanwhile, I worked 2 jobs in high school, saved every penny, and still heard nothing but criticism. You act like Mom's your responsibility, Kevin said, stepping closer. She doesn't need you hovering all the time. Maybe if you backed off, she'd actually get to breathe. That hit harder than I expected, because deep down I knew I did hover. Not because Mom asked me to, but because I didn't trust Dad or Kevin to take care of her. Before I could respond, Mom touched my arm. Sweetheart, can you help me in the kitchen? I followed her, heart pounding, trying to calm down. She started unpacking groceries, avoiding my eyes. You two fight too much. I can't take it anymore. Then why does he get away with everything? I asked, voice low. Why does Dad let him walk all over everyone? But I'm the one who's always wrong. Mom froze, holding a carton of eggs. Because your father sees himself in Kevin. That one sentence cut deeper than all the arguments combined. Later that night, when I got home, I told my girlfriend, Lily, about what happened. She curled up next to me on the couch, resting her head on my shoulder. Babe, you've been fighting the same battle since I met you. Why do you keep putting yourself through it? Because it's my family, I said, and because of Mom. She sighed. I get it, but what about us? Every time you come back from that house, you're angry, drained, and impossible to talk to. It's like they take pieces of you, and I'm left with whatever's left. Her words stung, mostly because they were true. My family drama was bleeding into my relationship, and I didn't know how to stop it. A week later, things boiled over again. Mom's birthday dinner. The table was set with her favorite dishes, and for once, it seemed like everyone was in a good mood. I brought flowers. Kevin brought nothing but his appetite. Dad poured wine and cracked jokes. Halfway through dinner, Mom mentioned she was thinking of selling the house. The room went dead quiet. Kevin spoke first. You can't sell this place. This house is ours. You know how much Dad loves it. I frowned. If she wants to sell, that's her decision. It's her house, too. Kevin laughed bitterly. Of course you take her side. You've always been the golden child in her eyes. That set Dad off. Enough. We're not discussing this at the table. But Kevin didn't stop. He leaned forward, pointing at me. You think you're better than me because you run errands and kiss up to Mom. But at the end of the day, you're just as screwed up as the rest of us. I slammed my fork down. At least I don't mooch off everyone. At least I try to be there for her instead of treating her like a wallet. Mom's face crumpled. Stop, please. This is supposed to be my birthday. But the damage was already done. Lily reached for my hand under the table, squeezing it, but I barely felt it. My chest was on fire. That night, after we got home, Lily turned to me with tears in her eyes. I can't do this anymore. I love you, but I can't keep being dragged into this war with your family. It's destroying us. The words hit like a punch. So you're leaving? She hesitated, then whispered, unless something changes, yeah. I lay awake until sunrise, staring at the ceiling. My family was tearing my relationship apart. And for the first time, I wondered if Kevin was right. Maybe I was just as screwed up as the rest of them. The morning after Lily told me she might leave, I couldn't shake the heaviness in my chest. It wasn't just about her words, it was the way she said them. Like she'd already made her peace with the idea of us ending. I tried to go about my day as if nothing happened. I went for a run, answered a few work emails, even vacuumed the apartment, but everything fell off. Every time my phone buzzed, I hoped it was her, only to see spam notifications or a random group text. She hadn't said a word since she walked out the night before. By the afternoon, I cracked. I called her. No answer. Texted her, "Can we please talk?" Nothing. That silence, longer than any fight we'd had before, hit me harder than I expected. A few days later, Mom called. Her voice sounded shaky. "Sweetheart, can you come over? Your father, he's not taking the house thing well." Of course. Another crisis. When I arrived, the tension was so thick it felt like walking into a storm. Dad was pacing the living room, while Kevin lounged on the couch like he owned the place. Dad turned the second he saw me. "Your mother's losing her mind. She wants to sell the house, and she's dragging you into it. You need to talk sense into her." I stayed calm. "Dad, it's not just your house. It's hers too. If she wants something different, you should listen." Kevin snorted. Here we go again. Saint Perfect taking Mom's side. Newsflash. If this house goes, so does our family history. But hey, as long as you get to play hero, right? I stared at him, jaw tight. You don't care about history. You just don't want to deal with change. That set him off. He jumped up, chest puffed like he was ready to fight. You think you're better than me? You're not. You're just Dad's lapdog when it suits you and Mom's crutch when you need to feel superior. Dad stepped between us, pointing a finger at me. Kevin may not be perfect, but at least he's not tearing this family apart. That broke me. I'm tearing this family apart? For years, I've been the one holding it together while you two pretend everything's fine. You favor Kevin, you excuse him, and Mom suffers while you look the other way. Mom burst into tears right there. Stop it. All of you stop. But it was too late. That fight drew blood. That night, I went home and found Lily waiting on the couch. She looked tired, like she hadn't slept in days. "We need to talk," she said quietly. My stomach dropped. "Are you leaving?" She shook her head. "Not yet, but I can't keep living in the middle of this war. I don't want to spend my life competing with your family for your peace of mind. I love you, but love isn't enough if every visit home rips us apart." Her words stung because I knew she was right. My family's dysfunction was poisoning everything good in my life. "You sit beside here. So what do I do? Just cut them off?" "I don't know," she whispered. "But you can't keep choosing them over us. Because whether you admit it or not, you've been choosing them every time." That night, I barely slept. I kept replaying every fight, every sarcastic jab from Kevin, every dismissive comment from Dad, every tear from Mom, and now, Lily's ultimatum. It felt like being pulled apart in every direction until nothing was left. The breaking point came 2 weeks later. Mom called again, her voice trembling worse than before. "Sweetheart, can you come? It's Kevin." My heart stopped. "What happened?" "He's drunk. He came over yelling at your father. They're screaming at each other, and I can't calm him down." I drove like a man possessed, pulling into the driveway, so fast the tires screeched. Inside, the scene was chaos. Kevin was red-faced, shouting at Dad, who was shouting back even louder. Empty beer cans littered the coffee table. Mom was crying in the corner. I stormed in. "Enough. What the hell are you two doing?" Kevin turned on me instantly. "Oh, look, the savior's here. Come and fix everything again, huh?" Dad jabbed a finger at me. "This is what you wanted. You turned him against me with your constant need to interfere." Something inside me snapped. "No, you did this yourselves. I've been breaking my back trying to keep this family from collapsing, but you two are too selfish to see it." Kevin shoved me. Hard. "You think you're better than me? Say it. Say it." I shove him back. "I am better than you, because at least I take responsibility instead of blaming everyone else." Dad roared, stepping forward, but Mom screamed loud enough to shake the room. "Stop. This family is killing itself." That froze all of us. Her tears, her broken voice. It silenced the chaos in a way nothing else could. She looked at Dad, then Kevin, then me. "I'm done. If this doesn't stop, I will leave. I will sell this house. I will walk away from both of you if I have to." The silence that followed was suffocating. For once, none of us had a comeback. That night, when I got home, Lily was waiting again. But this time, she wasn't crying. She was packing. "I can't anymore," she whispered, folding clothes into a suitcase. "I've begged you to choose us, and you keep choosing them. I can't live like this." I felt like the floor gave out beneath me. "Lily, please don't go." She stopped, her hand trembling on the zipper. "I love you, but love can't survive if you're always at war." And just like that, she walked out the door. Days turned into weeks. Kevin went back to his reckless habits. Dad kept pretending nothing was wrong. Mom barely called. And me? I was left with silence. Silence in my apartment. Silence where Lily used to laugh. Silence in my chest where hope used to be. Maybe Kevin was right all along. Maybe I wasn't better. Maybe I was just another broken piece of this family puzzle that never really fit. But one thing was clear. If I didn't find a way to break the cycle, I'd lose everything that mattered. And maybe, just maybe, it was already too late. If you felt this story, hit like and subscribe. Your support keeps me going and helps me bring more stories straight to you. You ever look at your life and wonder how it ended up in such a messy knot? That's pretty much me right now. I'm stuck in the middle of a storm I didn't ask for, but somehow I've been branded the asshole for everything going wrong in my family. It all started around last Thanksgiving. My family has always been a little chaotic, but we managed to keep the peace during the holidays. My mom is obsessed with appearances. She'll burn herself out trying to make sure the house looks like something out of a magazine and the dinner table looks worthy of Instagram. Her words, not mine. My dad's the quiet type who nods and goes along with whatever she wants, so he never really says much. And then there's my sister, Rachel. She's younger than me by 3 years, and for some reason, she's always been the golden child. Growing up, Rachel could literally set the house on fire, and my parents would blame me for not watching her. Meanwhile, I'd bust my ass to get good grades, keep a part-time job, and try to stay out of trouble, but they never noticed. That favoritism didn't just go away. When we got older, it got worse. So when Rachel announced she was getting married, you would have thought the royal family was coming to town. My parents basically dropped everything to revolve their lives around her wedding plans. Meanwhile, I had just gone through a pretty brutal breakup with my girlfriend of 3 years, and no one even asked me how I was doing. They were too busy fussing over table linens, flower arrangements, and whether the bridesmaids should wear blush or champagne. Now here's where things really kicked off. Rachel decided that since I was single again, I should step up and pay for part of her wedding expenses. Let that sink in. My younger sister, who has always been spoon-fed everything, wanted me to write a check because her fiancé's family wasn't contributing much. I laughed when she first brought it up. I thought she was joking, but then my mom chimed in and said, "It would mean a lot to your sister if you helped out. You know, she doesn't want to start her marriage with debt." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I just moved into a new apartment after the breakup. My savings had taken a hit, and I was working overtime just to get back on track. Why the hell would I bankroll Rachel's wedding? I told them flat out no. That's when Rachel exploded. She accused me of being bitter because she was happy and I wasn't. She said I was selfish, that I never support her, and that I was trying to ruin her big day. My mom jumped right in to back her up, while my dad just sat there silently, staring at his plate like it was going to solve world hunger. Things escalated fast. I reminded Rachel of all the times I'd been there for her, like when I gave her rides to work because her car broke down, or when I helped her move into her apartment, or when I covered her half of the rent one month because she blew her money on a trip. None of that seemed to matter. "You're supposed to do those things as my brother," she screamed. "This is different. This is the biggest day of my life." I told her she was out of her damn mind if she thought I was going to fork over thousands of dollars for a wedding I didn't even want to attend anymore. Yeah, I said it, and I meant it. That's when my mom hit me with the classic guilt trip. Family is supposed to stick together. You've always had it easier than Rachel. It's only fair you help her now. Easier? I nearly choked. Easier? I had to scrape by through college with loans. I had to work 2 jobs. I had to build everything I had from the ground up while Rachel had mom and dad funding her life like it was their full-time job. But sure, I had it easier. The argument ended with me storming out of the house. I didn't even stay for dessert. I went home, cracked open a beer, and sat in silence wondering how the hell I was the asshole here. But didn't stop there. Rachel took her anger to social media. She posted some cryptic bullshit about toxic family members who can't be happy for others. And of course, all her friends flooded the comments with sympathy. My phone started blowing up with texts from relatives asking why I couldn't just be nice and support my sister. The kicker? A week later, Rachel had the nerve to send me a Venmo request for $2,500. No explanation, just a note that said for the wedding. I declined it, obviously, but I nearly threw my phone across the room. Now, my family barely talks to me. My mom says she's disappointed in the man I've become. My dad avoids me completely. Rachel won't stop spreading the narrative that I'm jealous and bitter. And me? I'm left wondering if I really am the asshole for standing my ground, or if my family has just completely lost it. And to make things even more complicated, my ex, yeah, the one I just broke up with, texted me out of the blue. She said she saw Rachel's post and asked if everything was okay. At first, I thought she was just being polite, but then she started bringing up memories, talking about how she missed certain things about us, how maybe our breakup was a mistake. That hit me harder than I expected. Part of me wanted to scream at her for having the audacity to show up now, when I was already drowning in family drama. But another part of me remembered how much I loved her, how much it hurt when things ended. So now I'm stuck. My family thinks I'm selfish, my sister wants my money, and my ex is suddenly trying to pull me back in her orbit. And here I am, sitting in my apartment with a bottle of whiskey, asking myself if maybe, just maybe, I'm the common denominator in all this mess. But deep down, I don't think so. I think I've just been carrying everyone else's weight for too long, and the second I put it down, suddenly I'm the bad guy. And maybe, just maybe, I'm done being the family's punching bag. The morning after all that chaos, I woke up to about 20 missed messages in the family group chat. Rachel had gone on another rant about how ungrateful siblings destroy happiness. My mom had dropped guilt bomb emojis, and a couple of cousins chimed in with maybe you should just apologize. I didn't respond. I couldn't. I sat there scrolling, feeling like an outsider in my own bloodline. Later that day, I went out to clear my head. Coffee shop, corner table, earbuds in, just trying to breathe. That's when my phone buzzed again, this time from my ex. Her message was longer than before. She said she knew things ended badly between us, but seeing Rachel's post made her realize how much my family always leaned on me, how unfair it was. She said she regretted not standing up for me back when we were together. I stared at that text for a good 10 minutes. My first instinct was to ignore it. But then I thought about how lonely I'd been since the breakup, how isolated I felt now that my own family was turning against me. So against my better judgment, I replied. We ended up talking for hours. Not about us, not yet, but about the chaos with Rachel, about how it felt like I was constantly expected to sacrifice while everyone else coasted. She listened in a way my family never has. She didn't jump to defend them. She didn't say I was overreacting. She just understood. But of course, nothing in my life can stay simple. That night, my mom called. Not to check on me. Not to ask how I was doing. She called to tell me Rachel had adjusted the seating chart so that I wouldn't be sitting at the family table. Don't make this harder than it has to be, she said. You'll still be there. That's what matters. I almost laughed. Still be there? Like I was some distant cousin who barely mattered? I told her flat out, if I'm not family enough to sit at the family table, then I'm not family enough to attend at all. She gasped like I just threatened to burn the house down. Don't you dare ruin this for your sister, she snapped. She deserves a perfect day. Click. I hung up. My hand was shaking. I wasn't sure if it was anger or heartbreak, but in that moment, I felt like I'd officially been cut loose. The following weekend, Rachel and her fiancé threw an engagement party. Surprise, surprise, I wasn't invited. I found out through pictures plastered all over social media. Everyone smiling, champagne glasses clinking, my parents grinning ear to ear like they hadn't just exiled their son. That's when the anger hit me full force. I wasn't just hurt anymore, I was furious. Furious at Rachel for being selfish. Furious at my mom for enabling her. Furious at my dad for never speaking up. And maybe a little furious at myself for putting up with it all these years. So I made a decision. I wasn't going to the wedding. I wasn't going to play the part of the bitter older brother shoved into a corner seat, pretending everything was fine. I was done. When I told my mom, she lost it. You'll regret this for the rest of your life, she shouted. This will be the last time the whole family is together before Rachel starts her new chapter. And you're going to throw it away over pride? Pride? No. Respect. Dignity. Self-worth. Things my family apparently didn't think I deserved. Rachel, of course, texted me a novel about how I was proving her point, that I was jealous, toxic, and bitter. She ended it with, don't bother showing your face when I have kids because I don't need that energy around them. That one stung. Not because I believed it, but because I realized she actually meant it. My sister would rather erase me from her life than admit maybe she was wrong. The only person who seemed to get it, who actually cared, was my ex. She kept checking in, kept telling me I wasn't crazy, that I wasn't wrong for setting boundaries. And the more we talked, the more those old feelings crept back in. Late night phone calls, little jokes only we understood, moments where I caught myself smiling when I should have been pissed. One night, she asked the question I knew was coming. Do you ever think about us? About trying again. I froze. My brain screamed no. My heart whispered yes. The breakup had been messy. We'd fought about priorities. She said I was too focused on work, too closed off. I said she didn't understand how much pressure I was under. Eventually, we stopped meeting in the middle. But now, with everything going on, it felt like she was the only one still in my corner. So yeah, I thought about it. Maybe too much. Meanwhile, Rachel's wedding day was getting closer, and the pressure from my family only got heavier. My mom left voicemails crying about how I was tearing the family apart. My dad finally broke his silence with a single text. Do the right thing. Whatever that meant. The thing is, for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like bending. I didn't feel like being the one to swallow my pride and make peace. They wanted me to be the villain? Fine, I'd be the villain. But the night before the wedding, I got another message that flipped everything upside down. This one wasn't from Rachel, or my mom, or even my ex. It was from my aunt, the one person in the family who's always kept it real with me. She wrote, I know you're hurting, but if you don't show up tomorrow, it'll haunt you. Don't do it for them. Do it for yourself, so you can say you tried. I sat there staring at that text until 2 in the morning. She wasn't wrong. As much as I wanted to wash my hands of the whole mess, I didn't want to spend the rest of my life wondering if I'd made the right call. So I made a choice. I got up the next morning, put on a suit, and drove to the venue. Not for Rachel, not for my parents, but for me, to prove that I wasn't the asshole they painted me to be. And let me tell you, walking into that room felt like stepping into enemy territory. Heads turned, whispers rippled. My mom's eyes went wide like she'd seen a ghost. Rachel looked me up and down, then rolled her eyes so hard I thought they'd get stuck. But I didn't flinch. I didn't apologize. I took my seat, not at the family table, of course, and sat through the ceremony in silence. When it was over, I stood, walked outside, and left without saying a word. No goodbyes, no hugs, nothing. Just gone. And weirdly enough, I felt lighter. My phone's been blowing up ever since. Half the family says I was mature for showing up. The other half says I was petty for leaving early. My mom hasn't spoken to me at all. Rachel posted another rant about snakes in the grass. But you know what? For the first time in years, I don't feel guilty. I don't feel like the asshole. I feel like a man who finally drew a line and stuck to it. And maybe, just maybe, I'm finally ready to rebuild my life on my own terms. With or without them. If you've ever had to cut off toxic family ties, you know it's not easy, but sometimes it's the only way to keep your sanity. If you want more stories like this, raw, emotional, and real, hit that subscribe button right now. It means more than you know, and it keeps me going. You ever notice how family dinners can go from calm to absolute chaos in less than 5 minutes? That's exactly what happened the night everything between me, my brother, and my girlfriend came crashing down. We'd all gathered at my parents' house for Sunday dinner. My mom's pot roast was in the oven. My dad was already 2 beers in, and my younger brother, Chris, was running his mouth as usual. He's the golden child. Charming, funny, never held accountable. Meanwhile, I've always been the one who worked my ass off, kept things steady, paid my bills, and tried not to ask for much. But that night, Chris decided he wanted the spotlight. It started small, little digs about how I never know how to relax, how I was always so serious. I brushed it off, but then he started teasing me about my girlfriend, Emily, who was sitting right there. He joked about how she must be bored to death dating someone like me, that she probably wished she was with a guy who could make her laugh. I could feel the heat rising in my chest, but before I could say anything, Emily laughed nervously. Not a full laugh, but enough that it stung. "Chris, stop," I muttered, trying to keep it light. But of course, he doubled down. "What?" "I'm just saying, if she ever want a night of fun, she knows who to call." The whole table froze. My mom gasped. My dad snorted into his beer like it was the funniest thing he'd ever heard. And Emily, my girlfriend of 2 years, looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor. I snapped. I told Chris he was out of line, that he always crossed boundaries and nobody ever called him out because he was the baby of the family. I told my parents they'd enabled him for years, and this was exactly why. Chris smirked like he'd won. "Relax, man. If you weren't so uptight, maybe she wouldn't laugh at my jokes." That was the moment Emily spoke up. "It's not funny, Chris. Seriously, stop." And just like that, the mood shifted. My mom rushed to smooth things over, insisting Chris was just joking. My dad mumbled something about me needing to lighten up, and Emily excused herself to the bathroom, clearly embarrassed. But the damage was already done. After dinner, when we got back to my place, Emily was quiet. I asked if she was okay, and she sighed. I don't like how you and your family interact. It's toxic. It makes me feel caught in the middle." That hit me hard, because she wasn't wrong. My family's always had this weird dynamic where Chris can say whatever he wants, and I'm expected to swallow it. But now it wasn't just me he was disrespecting. It was her, too. The following week, I confronted my parents. I told them Chris needed to grow up, that his jokes weren't harmless, they were cruel. My mom immediately got defensive. He didn't mean anything by it. He's your brother. You can't take everything so seriously. My dad chimed in with, "You've always been too sensitive. Chris is just playful." Don't make it a bigger deal than it is. Playful? Calling out my girlfriend in front of everyone wasn't playful. It was humiliating. I left their house that night more pissed off than I'd been in years. Emily tried to comfort me, but I could see it in her eyes. She was questioning whether she wanted to deal with this long term. And then came the breaking point. A couple of weeks later, my parents threw a barbecue. Emily didn't want to go, but I convinced her it'd be fine. I thought maybe Chris had gotten the message after our last blow-up. Spoiler, he hadn't. The whole night, he kept finding excuses to talk to Emily. He'd lean in too close, crack jokes about how she must be slumming it with me. Even made a comment about how she should come dancing sometime with real fun people. I was fuming, but I tried to hold it together. I didn't want to give my parents another excuse to call me dramatic. But then Chris crossed the line I didn't think he'd ever dare cross. When Emily went inside to grab a drink, he followed her. I only found out because my cousin pulled me aside and whispered, "Hey man, your brother's getting real cozy with your girl in the kitchen." I stormed inside, and sure enough, there was Chris leaning against the counter, blocking Emily's way while she awkwardly laughed and tried to brush him off. "Seriously, Chris?" I snapped. He had the audacity to grin. "What? We're just talking." Emily looked at me, wide-eyed, clearly uncomfortable. I grabbed her hand, pulled her past him, and told him flat out, "If you ever talk to her again like that, we're done. Brother or not." The room went silent. Half the family had heard me, and I didn't care. I was done playing the quiet older sibling who let everything slide. We left the barbecue early, and the car ride home was tense. Emily finally said what I've been dreading. "I love you, but I can't keep doing this. Your family makes me feel unsafe, and I don't see it changing." My chest tightened. "So, what are you saying?" "I'm saying maybe we need space." Those words echoed in my head the entire night. Space. The kind of space that usually leads to endings. Over the next few days, she barely responded to my texts. When she finally did, it was a simple message. "I think we should break up." And just like that, the girl I thought I'd spend my future with was gone. Not because of me, not entirely, but because my family couldn't respect boundaries. Because Chris couldn't stop running his mouth. I haven't spoken to him since. My parents keep calling, insisting I need to forgive him, that family comes first. But I keep asking myself, if family comes first, why do they always put Chris's feelings above mine? And now, I'm not sure if I even want him in my life at all. When Emily broke up with me over text, I stared at my phone for what felt like hours. The words were simple, but the impact was crushing. "I think we should break up." No long explanation, no phone call, just a message that tore my chest open. At first, I wanted to fight for her. I typed out paragraphs, telling her Chris was the problem, not me, that I loved her, that I'd cut off my family if I had to. I wrote it all out, but before I hit send, I stopped. Because deep down, I knew she'd already made her choice. And honestly, could I even blame her? I was angry, though. Furious at my family, at Chris, at the way everything always revolved around him. But most of all, I was furious at myself for not protecting Emily sooner, for letting this crap slide for years, for thinking things would magically change. The days after the breakup were quiet, too quiet. I'd come home from work to an empty apartment, see her toothbrush still sitting in the bathroom, her sweater draped over the couch. She hadn't even picked up all her things yet, which made it worse. It felt like living in a museum of our relationship. Meanwhile, my phone blew up with calls from my mom. Every voicemail was the same. "We're family. You can't let this tear us apart." Then my dad chimed in, "Son, you need to be the bigger man." Chris didn't mean anything by it. Didn't mean anything by it? He harassed my girlfriend until she left me. How the hell was I supposed to let that go? About a week later, Chris himself texted me. Just one line, "Yo, you still mad?" I wanted to throw my phone across the room. Still mad? Like this was a minor argument, not the destruction of my relationship. I didn't answer. That weekend, my parents invited me over for dinner. Against my better judgment, I went. Not because I wanted to, but because part of me hoped maybe they'd finally take me seriously. Spoiler, they didn't. The second I walked in, my mom hugged me tight and whispered, "I'm so glad you came. Now, we can put this all behind us." Put behind us? Like it was nothing. Like Emily hadn't walked out of my life because of their golden child. Chris strolled into the kitchen like he owned the place. "Look who decided to show up," he smirked. "Guess you're not that mad after all." That was it. I lost it. I laid into him, in front of my parents, in front of my cousins, in front of whoever the hell else was there. I told him he was selfish, manipulative, that he didn't care about anyone but himself. I told my parents they'd created this monster by never holding him accountable. Chris laughed in my face. "You're just bitter because she dumped you. Don't blame me for your failed relationship." The room went silent. My mom gasped. My dad muttered something under his breath, and I saw red. I didn't hit him, though I wanted to. Instead, I grabbed my keys, told everyone in that room they wouldn't be seeing me again for a long time, and walked out. For the first time in years, I put myself first. The days that followed were hard. No family dinners, no phone calls answered, no texts returned. Holidays came and went, and I stayed home. My mom sent long, guilt-tripping messages. My dad tried to play peacemaker, and Chris, he sent memes. Like nothing had happened. But slowly, painfully, the silence started to feel like peace. I wasn't waking up every morning bracing for another fight. I wasn't dragging Emily into a toxic cycle anymore. I was free, and then something unexpected happened. Emily reached out. It was months after the breakup. She texted me out of the blue. "Hey, I heard about what happened to your parents. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry things got so bad. I hope you're okay." My heart flipped. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to beg for another chance, but another part of me knew she deserved better than being dragged back into that mess. So I told her the truth, that I missed her, that I was working on myself, that I'd finally cut the cord with my family. She didn't respond right away. When she finally did, it was simple. "I'm glad you're taking care of yourself." And that was it. Not a reconciliation, not a second chance, just closure. It hurt, but also gave me clarity. I couldn't keep blaming Chris forever. Yes, he was the spark that lit the fire, but I'd let that fire burn for years without putting it out. Now it was on me to rebuild. I've started therapy. I've leaned on friends I'd neglected for too long. I've started new hobbies, picked up running, even tried cooking things beyond frozen pizza. Life is far from perfect, but it feels like mine for the first time. Do I miss Emily? Every day. Do I wish my family was different? Of course. But I'm done sacrificing myself for people who don't respect me. Maybe one day, things with my family will change. Maybe they won't. But either way, I'm not going back to the way things were. Because sometimes, walking away isn't weakness. It's the only way to finally breathe. And hey, if you're still here with me after this long story, hit that like button and subscribe. It takes you 1 second, but trust me, it gives me the push to bring you even more stories like this. I never thought I'd be the kind of guy to cut ties with my brother, but here we are. For context, I'm 29 and my brother, Adam, is 27. We grew up in a small Midwestern town where everyone knew everyone, and family loyalty was drilled into us from day one. My parents always said, blood is thicker than water, and they meant it. Problem is, in our house, blood usually meant Adam. Adam was the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. He was funny, charming, good at sports, and every teacher loved him. Me, I was the quiet one, the kid who stayed in his room reading or writing, the one who didn't apply himself. But I didn't mind too much growing up because he was still my brother. We'd play video games together, ride our bikes around the neighborhood, and sneak into the gas station for candy we couldn't afford. I loved him. Things changed when we got older. Adam became the guy who never really grew up. He bounced from job to job, borrowed money from our parents constantly, and always had some new big plan that would fall apart within weeks. Meanwhile, I put myself through school, got a steady job in IT, and tried to build something real. Despite our differences, I still tried to support him. I'd loan him money now and then, help him with his resume, even let him crash at my place a few times when he got kicked out of apartments. I thought that's what brothers did. But Adam has a way of taking and taking until there's nothing left. The real breaking point came last year when I introduced him to my girlfriend, Rachel. She's 26, smart, funny, and way out of my league. At least that's how I feel. We met through work, hit it off instantly, and she's been the best thing in my life. At first, Adam seemed to like her. Too much, actually. He'd make little comments when she was around. Things like, "Man, you sure upgraded from your last girlfriend." Or, "Rachel, are you sure you're not slumming it with my boring brother?" He said with a laugh, but rubbed me the wrong way. Rachel brushed it off. She said she was used to guys like him, that he was harmless. I wanted to believe her, but Adam doesn't know boundaries. The first real incident happened at my parents' house during Sunday dinner. Adam sat across from Rachel and kept making eyes at her. When dessert came out, he leaned over and said, "If you ever get tired of my brother's cooking, I can show you how a real man grills." The whole table laughed like it was a harmless joke. Rachel forced a smile. I sat there fuming. After dinner, I pulled Adam aside and told him to knock it off. He just smirked. "Relax, bro. She's hot. I'm just kidding around. Don't be so uptight." That was his excuse for everything. I'm just kidding around. Except the jokes didn't stop. He started texting Rachel. At first in a group chat with me, then separately. She showed me the messages. Some were harmless. "Hey, you guys coming over for dinner?" But others crossed the line. "Don't tell my brother I said this, but you'd look amazing in that red dress again." Rachel shut him down every time. She even blocked his number for a while. But he'd just find another way to reach her, whether it was social media or showing up when he knew we'd be at my parents' house. The final straw came at my cousin's wedding. Rachel and I were on the dance floor when Adam cut in, literally pulling me aside and twirling her around like she was his date. He leaned in close, his hand way too low on her back, and whispered something in her ear. I couldn't hear what he said, but Rachel's face told me everything. She pushed him away and walked straight out of the reception hall. When I caught up to her outside, she was shaking. "I can't do this anymore," she said. "Your brother doesn't respect you, and your family just lets him get away with it. I love you, but I can't spend the rest of my life fighting for your dignity when no one else will." And then she left. Just like that, the best relationship I ever had was gone. Not because of anything I did wrong, but because of my brother, and because my family refused to see it. When I confronted Adam, he laughed in my face. "You're mad because she dumped you? Don't blame me for your problems, man. If she really loved you, nothing I did would have mattered." My parents backed him up, of course. "Adam's just immature," my mom said. "He didn't mean anything by it. Don't throw away your family over a girl." A girl. That's what they reduced Rachel to, a girl. But Rachel wasn't just a girl. She was my partner, my future, and she walked away because my family let Adam stomp all over our relationship. Since then, I've gone no contact with Adam. I barely speak to my parents. Every time they call, it's the same guilt trip. He's your brother. Family is forever. But is it? Because right now, it feels like I don't have a family at all. After Rachel walked out of that wedding, I felt like my entire world caved in. The ride home was silent. My parents acted like nothing had happened, chatting in the front seat about how beautiful the ceremony was. Meanwhile, I sat in the back, staring out the window, replaying Rachel's words over and over. "You don't stand up for yourself. I can't keep doing this." It cut deeper than anything Adam had ever said. She was right. I let my family steamroll me for years. And when it finally mattered most, I didn't protect what I loved. When I got home that night, I called Rachel a dozen times. She didn't pick up. I sent her messages apologizing, begging to talk, but all I saw were those little gray check marks. No response. The next week, I dragged myself through work in a fog. My coworkers noticed. I'm usually the reliable, steady guy, never late, always calm. But I was showing up with red eyes, missing deadlines, snapping at people. My manager pulled me aside and asked if everything was okay. I mumbled something about family issues and changed the subject. Deep down, I was angry. Angry at Adam for ruining everything. Angry at my parents for enabling him. But mostly angry at myself for letting it happen. I finally got the courage to call Rachel again 2 weeks later. This time, she answered. Her voice was quiet, guarded. What do you want, Alex? I just need to see you. Please, just give me 10 minutes. There was a long pause on the other end. Then she sighed. Fine. Coffee shop. Tomorrow. Noon. When I walked into that coffee shop, my stomach twisted. She was sitting by the window, arms crossed, hair pulled into a messy bun. She looked exhausted. Beautiful, but exhausted. I sat down across from her, hands shaking. Thank you for meeting me. She gave a small nod, but didn't smile. I want to start by saying I'm sorry. I blurted. I should have defended you. I should have defended us. Instead, I let my brother walk all over me and over you. That's on me. Rachel's eyes softened a little, but her jaw stayed tight. Alex, it's not just about Adam. It's your whole family. Every time he crossed the line, they laughed or excused it. And you froze. Do you know how humiliating it was for me to feel like I was on display for your brother's entertainment while you stood by? I nodded, ashamed. I know. You're right. And I hate myself for it. But I've cut him off. I haven't spoken to him since the wedding. I barely talk to my parents anymore. I'm done letting him ruin my life. Rachel stared at me, searching my face. Do you mean that? Or are you just saying it because you're scared to lose me? Both, I admit it. I mean it. And yeah, I'm terrified of losing you. But I've realized something. Family isn't about blood. It's about who actually shows up for you, who respects you. That was supposed to be Adam, but it wasn't. It was you. You've always been there for me. And I threw that away. For the first time since we sat down, Rachel's eyes glistened. She quickly wiped them with her sleeve. I love you, Rachel. I messed up, but I don't want to give up on us. She leaned back in her chair, exhaling slowly. Alex, I love you too. But love isn't enough if nothing changes. You need to prove that you can stand on your own. I can't be the only one fighting for this. I will, I promised. Starting now. We talked for another hour. Not everything was fixed, but for the first time, there was hope. We agreed to take things slow, to rebuild trust. But one thing was clear. If Adam ever crossed the line again, it was over. Leaving that coffee shop, I felt lighter. Determined. I was going to protect what I had with Rachel, no matter what it took. But of course, Adam didn't make it easy. A month later, he showed up at my apartment unannounced. Pounding on the door, yelling my name. I opened it just a crack, and he smirked like nothing was wrong. Yo, bro heard you and Rachel are back together. Congrats. You gonna invite me in, or what? No, I said flatly. You're not welcome here. He raised an eyebrow. What's your problem? I'm family. Family doesn't try to steal each other's girlfriends. I snapped. Family doesn't humiliate you in front of everyone you love. You're not my brother anymore. His smirk faded. You're seriously cutting me off over some chick? Pathetic. She's not some chick, I shot back. She's the only person who's ever actually cared about me without trying to tear me down. You don't get that because you've never respected anyone but yourself. Adam's jaw tightened. He leaned closer to the door. You'll regret this. Blood's thicker than water, man. Sooner or later, you'll need me. Then he stormed off. My parents were furious when they found out. My mom called me crying, saying I was tearing the family apart. My dad lectured me about forgiveness and loyalty. I told him the same thing I told Adam. Loyalty works both ways. I'm done being loyal to people who don't respect me. They didn't like that answer. They accused Rachel of turning me against them. But the truth was, she didn't turn me against anyone. Adam did that all by himself. It's been 6 months now. Adam and I haven't spoken. My parents still send me guilt texts every week. But Rachel and I, we're stronger than ever. We're in therapy, working through the fallout together. For the first time in my life, I feel like I'm actually standing up for myself. Do I miss my brother? Sometimes. We had good memories as kids. But when I think about the way he treated me and treated Rachel, I know I made the right choice. Because at the end of the day, family isn't who shares your DNA. It's who respects you enough to not destroy the people you love. Thanks for sticking with me through this story. If you're into real, messy family drama mixed with breakups, betrayals, and emotional gut punches, hit that subscribe button. It helps way more than you think, and it keeps these stories alive. Some people say family dinners are where memories are made. In my family, there were battlefields. Every Sunday, my parents insisted that all of us gather at their house. My brother Derek, my sister-in-law, my younger sister, me, and at one point my girlfriend Lily. These dinners weren't just meals. They were full-scale interrogations disguised as casual conversation. Derek, the golden child, always had something to brag about. His latest promotion, his new car, his expensive vacation. My parents would hang on his every word, praising him like he invented electricity. Meanwhile, I sat there, chewing my food, waiting for the spotlight to inevitably turn on me. "So, Alex," my mom would ask with that condescending smile, "still working at that little marketing firm? When are you planning to move up in the world?" Or my dad, setting his fork down dramatically, "You're 32 now. Don't you think it's time to buy a house? Settle down? Give us some grandkids." And then came the cherry on top. Derek smirking across the table, tossing in his 2 cents. Maybe Alex just likes being average. Nothing wrong with that, I guess. Lily used to squeeze my hand under the table when they did that. She'd give me this look like, "Don't let them get to you." But it was impossible not to. The breaking point came one Sunday when everything exploded. It started like any other dinner. My mom made her famous roast chicken. Derek was bragging about a deal he closed, and my dad was half listening while scrolling through his phone. I sat quietly, just trying to eat. Then my mom asked Lily the dreaded question. "So, Lily, when do you think Alex is finally going to pop the question? We've been waiting for years now." The whole table laughed. Derek clinked his glass. "Yeah, Lily, don't hold your breath." Lily froze. Her cheeks turned pink. She looked at me, silently pleading for backup. My heart raced. I wanted to say something to defend us, to defend her. But as always, my throat closed up. And then Lily did something I didn't expect. She spoke up. "Honestly, Mrs. Carter, that's not really your business. Alex and I are happy with where we are right now. We don't need anyone's timeline but our own." The table went silent. My mom's jaw dropped. Derek smirked like he was watching his favorite drama show. My dad cleared his throat, ready to lecture. I should have jumped in. I should have said, "She's right. Back off." But instead, I froze. I sat there, mute, while my girlfriend fought for both of us. My mom narrowed her eyes at Lily. "Well, I was just asking. No need to be rude." "Rude?" Lily shot back. "What's rude is constantly belittling Alex, treating him like he's less than Derek, acting like he's failing at life when he's not. Do you have any idea how hurtful that is for him?" Derek laughed. "Wow, somebody's touchy. Maybe Alex really is that sensitive." That was it. Lily pushed her chair back and stood up. "I'm not sitting here while you tear him apart. Alex, I love you, but I can't keep doing this. Either you stand up for yourself, for us, or I'm done." And then she walked out, just like that. The silence that followed was deafening. My mom looked offended. My dad muttered something about drama queens, and Derek smirked like he'd won a prize. I sat there, staring at the empty chair beside me, my pulse pounding. For the first time in my life, I realized just how much I'd let my family's control dictate my entire existence. But the worst part wasn't their words. It was Lily's. Her ultimatum echoed in my head all night. Stand up for us, or I'm done. I didn't sleep. My mind spun with every possible scenario. Was I really about to lose the best thing that ever happened to me because I couldn't grow a backbone? The next day, I tried calling Lily. She didn't answer. I texted, apologizing, begging her to talk. Hours passed. Finally, she replied with one line. "I need space." Those 3 words hit harder than anything my family had ever said. Space wasn't just distance. Space was the beginning of goodbye. And for the first time, I wasn't just angry at them. I was angry at myself. Angry for being the guy who sat silently while the people I loved most were torn apart. I knew something had to change, but I didn't know if it was already too late. The morning after Lily's text, I sat in my car outside her apartment, my stomach in knots. I wanted to knock, to beg, to do anything to make her open the door. But I didn't. Instead, I just sat there staring at the dashboard like a coward. I finally drove off, shame burning my chest. That week dragged by like a slow-motion car wreck. I tried throwing myself into work, but every email, every phone call, every meeting felt pointless. My coworkers noticed too. One of them, Mark, pulled me aside. "Man, you look like hell." "You good?" I almost lied, but instead I blurted, "My girlfriend walked out on me. My family won't stop tearing me down, and I think I've ruined everything." Mark studied me, then shrugged. "So stop letting him ruin you. You're not a kid anymore. You don't need their approval." Simple words, but they hit me harder than I expected. By Friday, I couldn't take the silence anymore. I texted Lily again. "Can I see you? Just 5 minutes." This time, she replied, "Tomorrow. Coffee shop on 8th, 11 a.m. When I walked into that cafe, I swear my legs almost gave out. Lily sat by the window, her arms crossed, her face unreadable. She looked tired, not just physically, but tired of me. I sat across from her, my heart racing. "Lily, I'm sorry. I should have defended you. I should have defended us." She didn't answer right away. She sipped her coffee, then set it down carefully. "Do you know how humiliating it was for me? Sitting at that table, being attacked, and watching you just sit there." "I know," I said quickly. "You're right. I froze. I've been freezing my whole life around them. But I don't want to be that guy anymore." Her eyes softened just a little, but she shook her head. "Words aren't enough, Alex. You said sorry before. You promised change before. I need proof. What do I have to do?" "Stand up to them," she said firmly. "Not just for me, for yourself. Until you do, we can't move forward." It was a gut punch, but it was also clarity. The next Sunday, when my mom sent her usual text, "Dinner at 6, don't be late," I stared at it for 10 minutes straight. My palms were sweating, my heart thudding. But then I typed back, "Lily and I will come. But if you insult me or her again, we're leaving. And we won't be back." I hit send before I could chicken out. At dinner, the tension was thick. Derek was already running his mouth about some new promotion. My dad was lecturing my sister about wasting her 20s. My mom glanced at me like she was waiting for me to fail. And then she struck. "So, Alex, still no ring for Lily, huh? You know, your brother already." "Enough," I said sharply. The room went silent. Derek actually choked on his drink. I leaned forward, my voice steady for the first time in my life. "I'm done being your punching bag. You don't get to belittle me, or Lily, or anyone else I care about. If you can't treat us with respect, then we're leaving. And I won't come back here again." My mom's face turned red. "Excuse me? That's no way to talk to your mother." "It's the way I should have talked years ago," I said. Derek tried to jump in, laughing nervously. "Oh, come on, man. Don't be so sensitive." "Sensitive?" I shot back. "You've been mocking me for years. I've let it slide because I thought it was easier than fighting. But it's not easier. It's killing me. And it almost cost me the woman I love." Lily squeezed my hand under the table. For once, I didn't need her to defend me. I was defending myself. My dad cleared his throat. "Son, I think you're overreacting." "No," I said firmly. "I'm not. And if you can't see that, then maybe we need some distance. I won't let this family dictate how I live anymore." The silence that followed felt like an earthquake. My mom looked furious. Derek looked shocked. My dad looked confused. But Lily, she smiled. Just a small, proud smile. We stood up together. "We're leaving," I said. "We'll come back when you're ready to treat us with respect. Until then, don't call." And then we walked out. I can't describe the relief that hit me in that moment. My chest felt lighter than it had in years. For once, I wasn't the quiet one, the pushover, the background character. I was me. When we got back to Lily's apartment, I turned to her, nervous again. "So, did I prove it?" She cupped my face in her hands, tears brimming in her eyes. "You did. You finally stood up. For yourself. For us." And then she kissed me, not just a kiss of love, but of hope, of new beginnings. That night, lying beside her, I realized something. Sometimes, the hardest battles aren't with strangers, but with the people closest to you. And winning them isn't about destroying anyone. It's about refusing to let them destroy you. And for the first time in years, I felt free. If you felt that story hit home, do me a favor and hit like and subscribe. It keeps me motivated to share more stories like this with you. I always thought family was supposed to be the place you ran to when everything else in the world fell apart. You know? Like, no matter how bad things got at school, work, or relationships, family was supposed to be the safe net. At least, that's what I grew up believing. But the older I got, the more I realized that my family wasn't that net. It felt more like a trap, the kind that slowly tightens around you until you can't breathe anymore. And I think the breaking point for me came earlier this year, when everything just blew up. For some background, I'm the middle kid in a family of 5. My parents, my older sister Emily, me, and my younger brother Jason. Emily was always the golden child. She could do no wrong. She brought home average grades. My parents acted like she just won a Nobel Prize. She stayed out late and didn't answer calls. They brushed it off as her finding herself. Meanwhile, if I so much as came home 5 minutes late from hanging out with friends, my dad would be at the door waiting with a lecture. Jason, the youngest, got away with murder. He's the baby, so he's always been coddled. The kid could crash the car into the garage, and somehow my mom would find a way to blame me for not setting a better example. I swear, it's like my parents made it their mission to find every little thing wrong with me and amplify it. But I swallowed it. I told myself, whatever, I'll move out one day, and things will be different. Except they weren't. Because even after moving out, I found myself getting dragged right back into the family drama, like I never escaped at all. Here's where things really start unraveling. I had been dating this girl, Rachel, for about 2 years. She was sweet, supportive, and honestly one of the first people in my life who made me feel seen. I thought she might be the one. I was even thinking about proposing within the next year. The problem? My family hated her. They didn't just dislike her. They acted like she was some kind of virus infecting me. My mom would make little comments like, "She doesn't look like she's from a good family," or "I don't see why you need her when you have us." My dad would go silent anytime Rachel was around, which was somehow worse than him yelling. And Emily took it to a whole new level. She'd constantly try to outshine Rachel in every conversation, cutting her off, making snide remarks, and once even pulling me aside to say, "You can do way better. Don't chain yourself to her." I should have cut that off right there. I should have drawn the line. But I didn't. I kept hoping they'd warm up to Rachel if they just got to know her better. So I kept bringing her around, kept trying to smooth things over. And in the process, I didn't realize how much it was tearing Rachel apart. The final straw happened at a family dinner a few months ago. Rachel had just gotten a promotion at work. She was over the moon about it, and I wanted my family to celebrate with us, you know? I thought maybe, just maybe, they'd finally acknowledge that she was good for me. Dinner started off tense, like always. My mom nitpicked Rachel's outfit, saying it was a little too bold. My dad asked her about her job, but in that condescending tone that made it clear he didn't actually care. And Emily? She just kept smirking like she was waiting for Rachel to slip up. Then Rachel brought up the promotion. She was smiling, telling them how hard she'd worked for it, how excited she was to take on new responsibilities. Before she could even finish, Emily rolled her eyes and said, "Wow, a middle management position. Congrats, I guess. Must be nice to celebrate mediocrity." I froze. My parents chuckled like it was just some harmless joke. But Rachel's face, man, I'll never forget that look. Her smile just died. She tried to laugh it off, but I could see the hurt in her eyes. And what did I do? Nothing. I sat there, staring at my plate, wishing the ground would swallow me whole. I didn't defend her. I didn't call Emily out. I didn't even excuse us to leave. I just let it happen. That night, after dinner, Rachel didn't yell. She didn't cry. She just looked at me and said, "I can't keep doing this. It feels like I'm fighting your entire family, and you won't even stand beside me. If you can't choose me when it matters, what's the point?" Then she left. She packed a bag that night and went to stay with a friend. A week later, she officially broke up with me. 2 years together, gone in one night. And the worst part? I couldn't even blame her. She was right. I hadn't chosen her. I'd chosen silence. After she left, I was devastated. I barely ate, barely slept. My friends tried to get me out of the house, but I couldn't bring myself to do anything. And my family? They acted like it was some kind of victory. My mom said, "You'll find someone better." Emily smirked and said, "Told you so." My dad didn't even acknowledge it. It was like Rachel had never mattered at all. But she mattered to me. She mattered more than they'll ever know. And now, months later, I keep asking myself the same question. Am I the asshole for not defending Rachel when my family tore her apart? Did I let the best thing in my life slip away because I couldn't grow a backbone? After Rachel left, I thought maybe the guilt would fade with time. You know how people say, time heals everything? That was a lie in my case. The guilt didn't fade. It grew like a vine crawling up the walls of my chest, wrapping tighter and tighter every day. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, sweating, hearing her voice in my head. If you can't choose me when it matters, what's the point? That line haunted me. It still does. For weeks, I kept replaying the dinner in my head. I'd picture Rachel's smile fading, Emily's smug little smirk, my parents' laughter, and me, sitting there, staring at my damn plate like a coward. Every version of that night ended with me doing what I should have done. Standing up, calling Emily out, telling my parents they were cruel, and walking out with Rachel's hand in mine. But that didn't happen, and no amount of rewinding in my head could change it. At first, I tried reaching out to Rachel. I called, texted, even wrote this long, rambling email basically begging for another chance. She read it. She even responded. But her reply was short. "I can't put myself back in that situation. I still care about you, but I need to protect myself. Please understand." That hit harder than I expected. She didn't say she didn't love me anymore. She just said she couldn't keep fighting a battle alone. And deep down, I knew she was right. Meanwhile, my family kept acting like they'd done me a favor. Emily was especially unbearable. She'd make little digs like, "Bet you're glad you dodged that bullet," or "Next time maybe bring home someone who can actually handle a joke." Every time she said that, I wanted to scream. But I didn't. I stayed quiet, swallowing my anger like I've been doing my whole life. Until one night, something inside me snapped. It was Jason's birthday. My mom had thrown this big family dinner at their place, and I, being the idiot I am, showed up. I told myself it would just be easier to go than to deal with the guilt trip phone calls if I skipped it. Dinner started off fine. Cake, gifts, laughter. But then Emily opened her mouth. She was telling a story about one of her coworkers, laughing about how overly sensitive the woman was. Then she turned to me and said, "Kind of like your ex, huh? What was her name again?" "Rachel." The table erupted in chuckles. My dad shook his head like he agreed. My mom smirked. And for a second, I felt myself starting to do what I always did. Look down, shut up, pretend it didn't hurt. But I couldn't. Not this time. I slammed my fork down so hard the room went silent. My chest was burning, my hands shaking. And before I could second guess myself, the words just came out. "You guys ruined the best relationship I ever had. Do you realize that? You made Rachel feel like she didn't belong, like she wasn't good enough for me. And I let it happen because I was too damn scared to stand up to you. But I'm done. I'm done letting you treat people I love like garbage." The silence around the table was deafening. My mom's face went pale. My dad frowned, like he couldn't believe I was actually talking back. Emily rolled her eyes and muttered, "Oh, please." That was it. I stood up, pointed right at her, and said, "No, Emily. Not oh, please. You're cruel. You've been cruel to me my entire life, and you were cruel to Rachel. You belittled her, insulted her, and you laughed when she was hurting. And the worst part? You enjoyed it. That makes you a bully. Plain and simple." Emily's jaw dropped. She looked like she wanted to fire back, but I didn't give her the chance. I turned to my parents and said, "And you two? You let it happen. You laughed at her pain. You encouraged it. You act like family means loyalty, but the only loyalty you care about is loyalty to you. Well, I'm done with that too." I grabbed my coat and walked out. My mom shouted after me, "Don't you dare leave this house like that." My dad barked, You'll regret this. But I didn't turn around. For the first time in my life, I didn't care what they thought. When I got home, I sat on my couch, shaking. Part of me felt guilty, like I just detonated a bomb in the middle of my family. But another part of me felt free, lighter, like I'd finally exhaled after holding my breath for years. The next few days were rough. My phone blew up with calls and texts. My mom left voicemails crying about how hurtful I'd been. My dad sent one-word texts like, ungrateful. Emily sent paragraphs about how I was pathetic and blaming her for my failures. I didn't answer any of them. And then something unexpected happened. Jason, the one who usually kept his head down, the baby of the family, showed up at my apartment. He sat down, awkward as hell, and said, "I'm proud of you." I almost laughed, thinking he was joking, but he wasn't. He told me he'd been watching the way Mom, Dad, and Emily treated me for years, and he always hated it. He said he wished he had the guts to call them out too, but he was scared of becoming their next target. When he stood up at dinner, he said, "It was like watching someone break out of prison." I want that too. Hearing that floored me. I always thought Jason was oblivious, or maybe he just didn't care. But he saw everything. And in that moment, I realized it wasn't just me they'd been suffocating. He'd been suffocating too. We talked for hours that night. About Rachel, about our messed up family, about how we both wanted better for ourselves. And for the first time, I didn't feel completely alone. Now here's the thing, I still miss Rachel. Every day, I still think about her laugh, the way she held my hand, the way she looked at me like I was enough. And sometimes I think about reaching out again. But I stop myself because unless I can prove I've truly changed, unless I can prove I'll stand up for her this time, it wouldn't be fair to drag her back into my mess. So I've been working on myself. Therapy, journaling, setting boundaries. It's not easy. Some days I want to cave, answer my mom's calls, go back to playing the obedient son. But then I remember Rachel's face at that dinner table, and I know I can't. Because here's the truth I've finally accepted. Love, real love, means standing up, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it means burning bridges. And if I ever get the chance to love someone like Rachel again, I won't make the same mistake twice. If you felt that hit you in the chest the way it hit me living it, drop a like and subscribe. It helps more than you know, and you won't miss the next story. When people talk about family dinners, they usually picture warm laughter, clinking glasses, and inside jokes that only make sense to the people at that table. For me, though, family dinners always carried a tension that felt like walking barefoot on broken glass. You couldn't see the cuts right away, but every step left you bleeding inside. My story starts at one of those dinners. It was a Sunday evening. My parents insisted on this tradition, even though half the time it felt like a battlefield disguised with mashed potatoes and fake smiles. My mom was setting the table, humming like everything was perfect, while my dad sat in his usual chair, scrolling through his phone, half listening, half somewhere else. My sister Emily and her fiancé Jason were running late, as usual, and I could feel my mom's frustration boiling underneath her polite words. By the time they walked in, all smiles and apologies, I already had that pit in my stomach that said, something's about to go down tonight. Dinner started off quiet, with the usual small talk. But it didn't take long for Jason to throw a comment across the table that landed like a knife. "So, Ryan," he said, smirking at me over his glass of wine, "are you still bouncing from job to job, or did you finally figure out what you're doing with your life?" It was the kind of comment that was meant to sound casual, but the smirk made it clear it wasn't curiosity, it was a dig. I froze with my fork halfway to my mouth. My mom gave me that quick side glance like, please don't cause a scene, while my dad finally looked up from his phone for the first time all night. I swallowed hard. "I actually started a new firm last month," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "It's going well." Jason nodded slowly, like he was humoring a kid who brought home a finger painting. "That's nice. Let's hope this one sticks." The table went quiet, and my sister gave him a little nudge, whispering his name like a warning. But it didn't matter. The damage was already done. And that was just the opening blow. The rest of the night spiraled fast. Every time I tried to talk about something positive, Jason had a way of twisting it back on me. My dad didn't defend me, just sat there like a judge watching me try to argue my own case. My mom made excuses, trying to change the subject to something lighter, but the tension was suffocating. Finally, I snapped. Do you have some kind of problem with me, Jason? Or do you just get off on making people feel like crap at dinner? The room went dead silent. Emily's eyes widened like I had just set the house on fire. My dad put his phone down slowly, finally deciding this was worth his attention. Jason leaned back in his chair, smirking again. I'm just saying what everyone else is thinking. You've always been the one in the family who can't get it together. That cut deeper than I expected. I looked at my dad, waiting for him to jump in, to defend me, to say that's not true. But all he did was take a sip of his drink and say, "Let's not do this tonight." That was the moment something inside me cracked. See, this wasn't just about Jason. This had been building for years. I'd always been the scapegoat, the one who didn't live up to the golden child standard Emily set. She got engaged to a guy my parents adored. She had a career they bragged about. She fit the mold. And me? I was the cautionary tale they whispered about when they thought I couldn't hear. But the truth was, I had been working harder than anyone gave me credit for. I had climbed out of debt, rebuilt my life after a brutal breakup, and landed a job that finally felt like it was going somewhere. But none of that mattered at this table. By the time dessert came out, I wasn't hungry. I excused myself, went outside, and sat on the porch in the cold night air, replaying everything in my head. My mom followed me out a few minutes later, her arms crossed tightly. "You shouldn't have spoken to Jason like that," she said softly. I laughed bitterly. Really? That's what you're worried about? Not the fact that he basically called me a failure in front of everyone. She sighed, like I was being dramatic. He didn't mean it like that. You're too sensitive, Ryan. That phrase, too sensitive, had been a family anthem since I was a kid. Every time I reacted to being hurt, I was labeled as the problem. It was easier for them to dismiss me than to acknowledge the way they let me down. That night, I made a decision. I wasn't going to keep letting them corner me into being the family's punching bag. What I didn't know was how far things were about to go, and how this family drama would dig up secrets I wasn't prepared to hear. The night after that dinner, I didn't sleep much. I kept replaying Jason's words in my head. The smug way he delivered them, the silence from my dad, the way my mom brushed it off as me being too sensitive. It was like being cut open and told to stop bleeding so much. By morning, I was still angry. Not the kind of anger that fades after coffee, but the kind that simmers until it changes something inside you. I went for a long walk just to clear my head, and that's when my phone buzzed. It was Emily. "Ryan, we need to talk." I almost ignored it, but curiosity and that little brother instinct that still wanted her approval made me pick up. "What?" I asked flatly. She sighed. "You embarrassed me last night. Jason was just joking. You always take things too far." I stopped walking. He wasn't joking. He humiliated me in front of everyone. "And you didn't say a damn thing." "Because you made it worse," she snapped. "You always do this. Turn everything into a fight." There was again, "You always do this." I could feel the old wound being poked open. But this time, something in me pushed back. "No, Emily, I've been swallowing this crap for years. Every dinner, every holiday, every time Dad sits there like I'm not even in the room while you get praised for breathing. And last night, your fiancé crossed a line. And you just sat there." The silence on the other end told me I hit a nerve. Finally, she muttered, "Maybe if you got your life together, people wouldn't treat you that way." That stung. More than Jason's words, more than my mom's sighs, more than my dad's silence. My own sister believed it. "Good to know where you stand," I said quietly, and hung up. Over the next week, the distance between us grew. I avoided family texts, skipped a Sunday dinner, and focused on work. For once, I actually felt proud of myself. My boss gave me positive feedback. I was hitting deadlines, and for the first time in years, I felt like I wasn't drowning. But none of that mattered when it came to family. To them, my worth was measured in how much I compared to Emily. Then came a bombshell. I was at the office late one night when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. It was a screenshot, a message thread between Jason and another woman. The words made my stomach drop. Can't wait to see you again. Last night was amazing. Don't worry, Emily doesn't suspect a thing. I froze. My first thought was, this can't be real. My second thought was, who sent this to me? Before I could even process, another text came through. He's cheating on your sister. Do with this what you will. No name, no explanation. Just that. My hands shook as I stared at the screen. For years, Jason had cut me down, mocked me, humiliated me. And here he was, betraying Emily, the perfect one, the golden child. I wanted to scream. I wanted to march straight to her house and throw the phone at her face. But I also knew how it would look. If I said anything, they'd accuse me of making it up, of being jealous, of trying to sabotage our relationship. I sat in my car outside the office until midnight, debating what to do. 2 days later, fate decided for me. I was at another family dinner, this time at my parents' place again. Jason was there, acting like king of the table, telling stories that made everyone laugh. Emily looked happy, glowing, like she had no idea. And I couldn't hold it in anymore. When there was a pause in conversation, I set my fork down and said, Emily, can I talk to you outside for a second? She frowned. We're eating. It's important, I said firmly. Everyone looked confused, but she followed me onto the porch. Jason's eyes narrowed as we walked out. I handed her my phone. Read this. She scanned the screenshot, her face shifting from confusion to disbelief to rage. Where did you get this? Someone sent it to me. I don't know who. Her hand shook. This isn't funny, Ryan. It's not a joke. He's cheating on you. I wouldn't bring this up if I wasn't sure. Her breathing quickened. She looked like she might faint. No, Jason wouldn't. Emily, look at the messages. Look at the way he talks. That's not made up. For the first time in my life, I saw my sister completely crumble. Tears welled up in her eyes, and she sank onto the porch step. And in that moment, I felt something shift. All those years of her siding with him, dismissing me, making me feel small, none of it mattered. She was my sister, and she was broken. I'll handle it, she whispered. Don't tell Mom and Dad. Not yet. But secrets like that don't stay buried for long. A week later, the truth exploded. Emily confronted Jason, and he didn't even deny it. He admitted everything. The affairs, the lies, the double life. He said she was too controlling and too perfect, and he needed an escape. My parents were stunned. My mom cried for days. My dad tried to play peacemaker, like it wasn't that big a deal. But Emily, she kicked him out. And for the first time, she came to me. You saved me, she said quietly one night, sitting on my couch with a glass of wine. I don't know what I would have done if you hadn't told me. I shrugged, still feeling the weight of everything. You probably would have figured it out eventually. She shook her head. No, I was blind. I thought he was everything. And I let him treat you like crap because I wanted to believe he was good. Her eyes met mine. I'm sorry, Ryan, for all of it. And that apology, those 3 words, hit harder than anything Jason had ever said. For once, my sister saw me. The family dynamic changed after that. Jason was gone. Emily started therapy, and my parents, well, they still had their blind spots, but even they started to recognize how much I had been holding in all those years. It wasn't perfect. It never would be, but it was a step towards something healthier. And as for me, for the first time in years, I didn't feel like the family screw up. I felt like someone who had finally stood his ground, spoken the truth, and protected the person who mattered most, even if she hadn't protected me for so long. If you've made it this far, thank you. Stories like this remind us how fragile families can be, and how strong. If you want to hear more, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. It helps more than you know. And that's where we'll wrap things up for today. You know, every time I sit down to share these stories, I'm reminded of how messy, emotional, and unpredictable life can really be. Families clash, love breaks, people screw up, but through all that chaos, we see parts of ourselves in these moments. If you've made it this far, You're clearly someone who connects with these stories on a deeper level. So here's my honest ask. Hit that subscribe button right now. Not tomorrow, not later, but now. Because the next story might just be the one that hits you the hardest. The one you'll remember when you're lying in bed or driving in silence. Don't miss it. Subscribe, stick around, and let's go through these emotional rides together.